So I'm going to call this meeting to order. So the South Burlington City Council meeting, regular session of Monday, April 19th, 2021. Welcome, everyone. And first item is agenda review. Any additions, deletions, or changes in order of the agenda items? Seeing none, okay. I want to add one item to other business. Heck was it? Just to plan a conversation. Shoot, I can't remember what it is, but I'll remember when we get to it, I think. Okay, so our next option or item rather is a possible executive session to discuss pending litigation to which the city is a party.
Before that,
And receive confidential attorney-client communications regarding the same.
Yeah, Helen, I move that the council make a specific finding that premature general public knowledge of the council's consideration of confidential attorney-client communications made for the purpose of providing professional legal services to the council and pending or probable civil litigation to which the city would be a party would clearly place the city at a substantial disadvantage.
I will second it, but I just want to quickly say I might have another item in other business to raise about the ferry that they're going to send in Lake Champlain if it's not too late. So I will second Tim's.
No, that's fine, because we're not going to take action, Tom. Okay, so we have a motion and it's been seconded. All in favor, thumbs up for the executive session? Okay, seeing at least 3/4 thumbs up. All right. Do you have a second motion, Tim?
Yeah, and so the city council having so found, I now move that the council enter into executive session to consider confidential attorney-client communications made for the purpose of providing professional legal services to the city council and pending or probable civil litigation to which the city would be a party.
Second.
Did you mention who will be in this?
We would
Meeting?
invite in Kevin Dorn, Tom Hubbard, Paul Connor, Andrew Bulldog, and Amanda Lafferty.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, thumbs up. All righty, so I would ask all those guests or members of the public and Town Meeting TV to please leave. We should be back on at 7, so try coming on at 7 and they'll let you know. Okay, so we are the South Burlington City Council of Monday, April 19th, 2021 is out of executive session and back into our regular session. And we are on item 3, comments and questions from the public not related to the agenda. And I don't know if Sarah, good. We're going to fit your time frame?
Yes, just perfectly. Thank you
Okay,
so
great.
much. Okay. Thank you, Council, for hearing a few words from me this evening on the subject of climate change and stewardship of natural resources right here in South Burlington. We often think of the large environmental changes the planet is undergoing as occurring somewhere else in the world, in exotic tropical rainforests or in hurricanes along the coasts of the United States, or among overhunted large animal species in Africa, or along crumbling glaciers. But every bit as important, though perhaps less visible, examples of degradation are taking place in every village, city, and county in this country, including South Burlington. We may not be able to focus on the enormity of global climate change, but we can act locally to contribute our portion of the solution. You as a council can shape zoning regulations, approve policies around new building design, deploy transportation alternatives, and protect open space for the future. If every community wakes up and acts in light of environmental imperatives, we can still save our amazing planetary home. But if very many local governments ignore the issue of climate change, then none of their other policies and regulations will matter at all. E.O. Wilson, a noted biologist, writes, "We are hardwired with an innate affinity for nature, but we have lost our connection to nature as we rush to cut down the forests, mine the mountains, and frack everything else in between. We are destroying the habitats of wild creatures and making much of the world uninhabitable. We don't realize or even seem to care that we are damaging the web of life and ultimately ourselves. Oh, but some will say that is hyperbole. That isn't happening in South Burlington. Yet we saw a whole forest obliterated almost overnight to make way for new development. Now we learn that blasting will be required to alter the topography of another site, rather than requiring the design of this new neighborhood to fit with the existing conditions on the ground. These are acts of violence. Our human affinity for nature, which Wilson writes about, has been on display during the pandemic as our able-bodied citizens flocked to the outdoors. Many enjoyed the path network and views of the lake and the mountains, or walked in the woods at Wheeler, or viewed the flower gardens on that property, or planted their own vegetable gardens. Past councils have made the amenities of paths and open spaces possible. E.O. Wilson also writes, being in nature relieves stress and improves physical health. But as the damage to the planet grows, we see a rise in anxiety, depression, and attention deficit problems. On the other hand, children are happier, healthier, and more creative when they have a connection to nature. Children in South Burlington have also benefited from council decisions through wonderful educational and agricultural opportunities at Common Roots and at Bread and Butter Farm on lands the city chose to help save. Please continue to make all your decisions based on the principle that the earth needs to be enabled to support human and natural kind for the long run. There are several items on tonight's agenda where that thinking must surely apply. To close, I would like to tell a brief anecdote which has become a metaphor for me of the battle between forces of destruction and preservation in the natural arena. Early in the pandemic, I was one of those beckoned out into the open spaces. I took an exhilarating ramble across the fields below the Wheelock barn, and there I saw the wonderful stone cairns lovingly erected by a citizen who found spiritual solace in creating them. I, in turn, derived inspiration and courage just by viewing them in their natural setting, the fields which had yielded the stones he used. Now, a year later, we learn that someone else has come along behind to topple the cairns, another act of gratuitous and unnecessary violence by a person unknown without peace in their heart. The act's source may have been anger, anxiety, depression, illness, fear, I don't know. But the meaning of the incident is clear. We can protect the stuff of nature, or we can destroy it. This is a choice we must make day after day. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sarah. Are there any other comments from the public on items not on the agenda tonight? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to announcements and the city manager's report. So does anyone have any announcements? Tom and then Megan?
This Saturday, we'll be cleaning up the South Burlington Cemetery. If any city councilors want to join, please let me know, and I'll ask Kevin to properly warn it. But it'll be Saturday morning from 9 to noon, unless the weather looks bad, and we'll be rain dating it. But the sextons will be cleaning up the South Burlington Cemetery this Saturday with about 15 volunteers so far.
Great.
Which one, Tom?
The Shelburne Road one.
Thank you
Yeah.
for the announcement and for doing that. Megan?
Yeah. So segue to, announce that May 1st is of course cleanup or green up day. So that's something maybe that Kevin was going to say. I have a few things. One, I watched Jetline, which was the documentary, and I found it very informative. And I encourage councilors as well as residents to watch it. I talked to a student by email, a student at South Burlington High School, who gave a presentation on how policy, and specifically federal policy, has discouraged people of color from settling in certain areas. And I have invited her to come to a city council meeting in May to make a presentation to this body. I thought that would be useful. And then the third announcement, and this is following up, I guess, on what Sarah just said, I would like to come forward with a resolution whereby we view all new policy decisions through the lens of climate change. I think that it is imperative that the city act. I know that we have done a lot, but I'd like to have it be actually a resolution where every decision that we make, that we consider the impact that we might have on the various factors feeding into climate change. So I will be coming forward with that. And just in addition to what Sarah said, we have a drought currently in Vermont. And as we all know, that will lead to crop failure. So we are not immune to this. And I thank Sarah and other citizens who have come forward regularly to remind us, because it is a silent, I believe, process that is going to have devastating effects. And I would also, just since, in that policy, I would really like to revisit that we ban pesticides in South Burlington. It's our pollinators are dying. A third of our bees are dying per year in this country. They have to truck bees around this country in order for our crops to grow. And then they put pesticides, and so those bees that are trucked in then are euthanized. We are sick, and it's so there we go.
Okay, thank you. Any other announcements?
Just a
We
short
have a-
one.
I'm sorry, Tim, yes. Excuse
I'm
me.
sorry. Did somebody else want to go first?
No, I was trying to
okay.
do two things at once.
So I was just thinking the other day, and after looking at some of the community watch Facebook pages, the fact that Burlington can't use their high school anymore. I don't know what they're going to do. And our school district wanted to tear down and rebuild our schools. So I was thinking, geez, somebody should take a look at maybe combining those two districts together into a 2,000 student, 9 through 12 facility, and find some place to build it. I mean, it's a possibility. You have two districts, they want to rebuild, one has to rebuild, the other one wanted to, but they got voted down. I don't know where the funding would come from, but maybe this is an opportunity to make a super regional high school. So that's all I wanted to say.
Okay, well, we can include something, a discussion like that during our steering committee meeting, because it certainly is
Right.
not our
No, I understand.
responsibility, but we certainly can make suggestions as the city council, because we represent the taxpayers as well. Any other announcements? I was away, so I didn't do much. Okay, Kevin, manager's report.
Thanks, Helen. Just a couple things. We've been talking with Holly and some of our parks staff about what appears to be a rising incidence of dog-related issues in our parks, principally Red Rocks parks. Every year, as you know, we do have complaints from folks about dogs off leash, people not picking up waste, and so on. But it seems per Holly this year, the numbers are significantly higher. Whatever the reason, who can say? But we're going to put together a public public information campaign designed to help people understand the impacts these actions are having on other people and on other pets and on the parks. I may be tapping into some of you to do a PSA for us. Helen, I'd like to talk to you about that, maybe starting this off. we'll be putting this campaign up on our various social media to include city news, our website, pushing out on Front Porch Forum and other things. We're going to try to find different types of media to try to get the campaign going. And we'd like this to be sustainable, not just one ad or one reminder, but something that continues to remind people their responsibility in public areas with their pets. And so you will start to see some things on this within the next couple of weeks in the next editions of City News. The public library and City Hall construction schedule appears to be consistent with what we have been reporting all along. It continues to look like the library will move in the last week or the last 10 days in June. And the City Hall and City Clerk's office will be the very end of June, spreading into the first week in July. And so we're pretty much on that target that have been talked about since last October or even before. Staff here and at the library and others are starting to talk about a grand opening celebration, which would likely be in mid to late July. We want to get moved in so that the celebration itself can include things like tours of the office spaces, tours, obviously the library, the senior center, the auditorium, clerk's office, and so on, and City Hall. So stay tuned to more on that and scheduling for that. Speaking of which, I'm going to be reaching out to you all to try to schedule you in for a tour of 180 Market Street in the next 10 days to 2 weeks. So I'm going to be sending you out some kind of a survey to find out when you might be available. I know the school board is interested also in touring, and I'd like to get our legislative delegation in there as well. So we'll be doing this pretty soon because the progress has just been absolutely remarkable. Let's see. Chief Burke has been meeting with the committee on the fair and impartial policing policy and has adopted the proposals that the committee made that you saw at your meeting back, I think, in March. There is one item of contention still that remains as it relates to a new issue, which involves Public Record Act requirements. But I understand the chief is meeting with the committee to try to iron that out and to better understand both perspectives. So that is all being implemented or has already been implemented, save that one issue. Tom is going to talk a little bit tonight in his report, his financial report, about the recovery funds that we're expecting to receive, roughly $5.4 million for municipal government. Very little is known at the detail level about how that money can be invested. But rest assured that this will be a council decision in the end based upon recommendations that staff will be making and accommodating anything else that council wants to do in that regard. The first half of the funds was supposed to come in within 90 days of the bill's passage. It's coming up fairly soon, and so we would hope that the federal government would be putting out the rules on how these funds can be spent before we get that first tranche of money. The second component is to arrive before within 1 year of passage. So anyway, Tom wants to talk to you some about our finances and the recovery funds in his report later on. And he's also, Tom, if you want right now to talk about the resolution of some dog park committee issues and moving forward, I know you had input on your last meeting about that. And Tom's been doing some work on the dog park committee. So Tom.
Thanks, Kevin. Just to update the council, the dog park committee has met. I talked with Justin and Holly, as I said I would. Justin is going to continue to be the staff liaison to the committee and continue to meet with them. I've talked with Betty Malizia, who's the new chair of the Dog Park Committee. My understanding is that the last meeting went well. Justin provided them with an update on the dog park and what the potential schedule is for things moving ahead. And he'll continue to meet with them. I think they have their next meeting on May 11th, if I'm correct. But I told Betty to stay in touch with me, and my understanding is that things are moving along there. And we have also advertised the opening for Larry Kupperman's position on the Dog Park Committee in the other paper, along with some of the other openings that we still have with committees.
Okay, Megan, you have another comment?
Yeah, I have a few questions. Kevin, the question has come up, why are the lights on at 180 Market Street at night?
Mostly for safety reasons, for vandalism reasons and others. We don't want a darkened building there. We realize that the lights are burning in there, but we need to keep it lit so that when our officers go by, they can see in the building, make sure, A, nothing's getting vandalized, and B, contractors' tools aren't being stolen.
Second question is when will the assessments be issued out to residents, the new home value assessments?
Tom, you have an update on that?
It looks like it's probably going to be early to mid-May, Megan. We're a couple weeks behind, but Tyler Technologies is going to add some staff on to assist with the grievance process that should catch us up so that we can still finish in time for the information that we need for the grand list to get to the state in June. So Martha's still feeling confident that that's going to happen, but the notices are going to be delayed about 2 weeks.
And the appeals deadline will be when?
It'll be 14 days from the day the letters go out.
Good.
Or the day that the data goes live on the website also, right, Tom?
I believe so.
That's what Todd had said before. The letters will go out, and I guess it goes live but the problem is you got to count on the mail. So we're telling people, go online and look the day it comes out. So we just need really good notification when it goes live.
We'll be doing a posting as well, Tim, through all
Okay.
social media, other paper, to let people know that they're coming.
And Front Porch Forum, perhaps?
Yes.
And the
Absolutely.
other, yeah, there was a suggestion made by a community member because people, of course, are very nervous that increased values of their home is going to lead to, an exponential increase in their property taxes that they have to pay annually. And so the residents suggested that in what goes out in that early to mid-May letter include, here is where your property value sits overall in the city's property values. So the percentage that you're at, right? So you are in the top 10%, you are in the top 20%, or et cetera, right? And then here you are with the new assessed value. I thought it was an interesting idea, just to let people see that perhaps your house is not necessarily much different in comparison, to the remainder of homes in the city. What do you think?
Happy to share that with Martha. I think it's an interesting idea. I think as much information as we can provide people with to help them feel more comfortable. I know there was a story on the Burlington reappraisal the other night on the news, and I was glad to see that they covered the fact that just because your assessment goes up doesn't mean your taxes are going to go up, that it's all balanced out. It's still the same amount of money that needs to be raised for the budget that's already been approved. So the tax rate would actually come down as the assessment goes up and the grand list goes up. So I was glad to see that they did a little bit of a focus on that point to help alleviate the concern for people that just because their assessment increases significantly doesn't mean that their taxes are going to increase significantly. So we'll continue to make sure that's messaged out as well. Thanks, Megan.
So Yeah, and just since everybody's listening, we have a great crowd here tonight. We go on the city, we look under departments and finances, and that's where those new home assessed values will be published. Does that
Correct.
sound
I think
right?
there's going to be a link from the main page as well. So that as soon as people sign on, it will be one of the graphics that will come across, but we'll provide the individual direct address as well. The link to it.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just have one thing that I forgot to mention, and I keep forgetting, and I'm on the distribution list of the weekly reports from the South Burlington Food Shelf. And recently, Peter Carmoli, the director, I guess, announced that if you shop in Healthy Living and they ask you at the register, do you want to round up to the next dollar? I always do. I mean, it's like 37 cents or something like that. Well, they just got a check for over $18,000 from Healthy Living as a result of that program. So that is equal to a full year's rent. So just a thank you, a shout out to Healthy Living, a thank you to all the people, not just South Burlington residents, but anyone who shops there. It really can make a difference. And I think they're going to try to engage some other supermarkets to do the same thing if the customers are able. But that makes an enormous difference for a small nonprofit. And I just was thrilled. So I wanted
Can I
to
add to
share.
that a little bit too?
Pardon me?
Can I add to that a little bit too?
Absolutely.
That $18,000 pays the rent for the facility for a year. So it's huge what they were doing. And I also always want to keep in mind as well the great support we get from Trader Joe's and the food donations that they make on a weekly basis. But it's great what Healthy Living's doing.
Yeah, and there's something like 30 different volunteers. So it's very heartwarming to me that many people in our community think specifically about those who are food insecure.
Let's get rid of pennies and dimes and nickels.
Exactly. Well, it's easy to do it that way. You round up. All righty. So we're moving on. If there's no more announcements, the consent agenda, we have two parts. A, consider and sign disbursements, and B, approve the minutes from April 6, 21, the joint meeting with the Planning Commission. So do I have a motion?
I'll move to
Megan?
approve. Yeah, I'll move to approve, and I'll wait for a second before I ask a question.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Tim seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Tom.
Megan, you need a question.
There was a permit for 17,000 and odd dollars. Is that for stormwater perhaps? And I'm sorry I didn't email you earlier. These are very full days.
I'll check the sheet, Megan, and get back to you with what that was for.
That's good. It was for a
State of-
permit, yeah.
State of Vermont permit. And I have a similar question. There was a Kevin Smith fencing charge for $1,500. Do you have any idea what that is? Sorry for the late notice.
I believe it was something up at the dugouts at that memorial, but I'll double check.
No, that's fine. That makes sense. Thank you. I'm satisfied.
Okay, are you ready for the vote? Okay, all in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented? I'll do a roll. Matt Coda?
Aye.
Tom Shinden?
Aye.
Megan Emery?
Aye.
Tim Barrett?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, so we pass that 5-0. Moving on to item 6, reports from councilors on committee assignments. Are there any? Well, I have a little quickie from the Airport Commission. We met and it's been in the news. I just think it's really exciting that there are 2 new flights, and actually one is a new carrier making daily flights to Boston. So I think that's a plus. And then I believe it's, what is it? I can't think of the name of it, but I don't fly them. But anyway, there's a nonstop now from Burlington to Dallas, Fort Worth. And I'm not sure why they picked that community. It works for me because that's how I got to see one of my daughters. But anyway, I think that shows that the airlines at least see the Burlington International Airport as a viable place and a place to build their business. And then the other exciting piece, I think, for the airport is one of their tenants, Beta, just had a order for 10 of their electric helicopters made by UPS. And so that's a very viable business that's growing, and they've identified Burlington as, or South Burlington Airport, as their corporate headquarters. So I think that bodes well for our community. All right, if there's no other reports, we'll go, let's see. Oh, we're 3 minutes over, but that's pretty good for us. To go on to item 7, the interim zoning application public hearing, warned for 7:30. So I would open the public hearing by reading the warning. So this is continued public hearing, interim zoning application IZ 21-01 of Alan K. Long for development of 2 existing lots totaling 39.21 acres, developed with a single-family home. The development consists of removal of the 2 existing homes and construction of up to 49 dwelling units in a combination of single-family, 2-family, and small multifamily buildings in a development area of approximately 17 acres and a conservation area of approximately 22 acres at 1720 and 1730 Spear Street. So I would invite a motion to enter the public hearing.
So moved.
Second,
Do I have a second? Okay, it's moved and seconded. All in favor, signify with a thumbs up.
Aye.
And we are in the public hearing. So I want
Helen?
to start with an overview of conflicts of interest and ex parte communications. Are there any conflict of interest on the council or ex parte communications? Seeing none, who is planning to speak? I need to swear in the applicants and anyone wishing to testify.
Helen, before you start.
I'm sorry, yeah.
I'd like to move to continue this to the next city council meeting because the DRB did not have a chance to fully complete their sketch review of this plan.
All
As I
right,
said in the last time that the long application came before us, I wanted the DRB to have a chance to see it first, and they haven't had a chance to give complete feedback on that. So
okay.
Could we
Is
get
there,
that confirmation from Marla? Marla's got her hand up. Marla, is that accurate?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you, Marla. There's so many things to look at. Marla, King.
The DRB's continued hearing is May 4th, which will be after your next meeting. Your next meeting
Okay.
is May 3rd.
So continue it after that then.
I would agree with that.
Would that be May, let me just get the right date. Let me see. So that would be May 17th. So we have a motion on the floor to continue this IZ hearing until, let's do 7:30 again on May 17th.
I second that motion.
All right, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So I apologize to all the people who joined in, but maybe you learned a few new things about the city, and we will see you all again on May 17th. Thank you. I guess we need to come out of. Oh,
we have 2 more. We have 2 more.
We have a zoning application of IZ, number IZ 2103 of the South Village Communities LLC. Do I have to read this whole thing? To amend a previously approved multi-phase 334 unit planned unit development application consists of the following components. One, amend the master plan by increasing the maximum allowable coverage from 13.9% to 20%, removing the educational facility, adding mixed use, removing the requirement to construct additional dedicated southbound turn lanes on Spear Street, and reducing the total unit count from 334 to 321. Two, subdivide 4 existing undeveloped lots totaling 23.2 acres into 8 lots ranging from 0.3 acres to, 14.1 acres. Construct 22 homes and 11 buildings on lot 11.1 and 11.2, and construct a permanent farm access road and pavilion on lot 11C. 3, subdivide an existing 1.92 acre lot into 5 lots ranging from 0.14 acres to 0.67 acres. Append 0.18 acres to an existing 12.68 acre agricultural lot for the purpose of developing a 2-family home on each of lots 92 to 95, and establishing the 5th lot as a permanent open space. Number 4, construct a mixed-use building and associated parking on newly created lot 11A. And 5, construct a soccer field with associated amenities and parking on a newly created lot 11B to be transferred to the city, all happening at 1840 Spear Street. So are there those wishing, I guess first, are there any disclosures of conflicts of interest and ex parte communication? Okay, seeing none, I need to swear in those who wish to testify, both the applicants and anyone else. So if you would turn your photo on and raise your right hand. And has everyone got there? We got Patrick O'Brien, Robin Jeffers, Dave Marshall. Do I have everyone? Is that all?
You do.
Okay. So do you promise, and Jen Rand? Okay. Are you raising your hand or you just, okay. I didn't see your hand. Do you promise to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth? So help you God?
I do.
Yes.
Okay,
I do.
thank you very much. So you were sworn in. So we first want to hear from the applicant, and that is Dave Marshall, is that right? Or is Robin? Who is speaking for
Turn
the
it on
applicant?
again. I turned it on quickly and then I turned it off.
I'll begin, Helen, if that's all right.
Okay, that's fine. It's your story.
Marla, can we ask for a visual to be brought up?
I actually don't drive. I don't know who's driving.
Okay.
There's someone who can bring up the
Bring
packet.
up a visual?
Kevin, I think Kevin's driving.
Kevin?
Yeah,
Well-
he's joined us.
Yeah,
Could we look at page, well, it's page 7 of our application or page 31 of tonight's presentation.
what is the question?
Can we look at the visual?
Can you put it up?
Let me,
Kevin, would you like me to drive? Would you like me to present? I can do that.
can you put it up, Marla? It's not coming up on my, I'm having a hard time connecting in here.
No problem. But you do have to make me an organizer because I'm signed in
Yeah.
with the other account right now.
Okay, hold on.
Thanks for your patience.
Hold on, Marla. I gotta find you here.
I'm there.
That's okay.
I got it, Kevin.
I got it.
Yay, thank you. So this is South Village. It's 226 acres. It's primarily concentrated with development over on the left-hand side where you see all the little mini squares, and down at the bottom of the page, there's a bunch more little mini squares. And then in the middle, you'll notice primarily is a large, big green area. The large green area is over 130 acres, which is held in conservation in perpetuity, and most commonly referred to as the Great Swamp. And then kind of in the middle of it, underneath where there's kind of a label about acres, is actually a piece of highland that sits in the middle of the Great Swamp. So there's wetlands on the left of it and wetlands on the right. Down at the bottom, just to help people get familiar, is Midland Avenue, which goes over to Dorset Farms. And over on the left-hand border is Spear Street. And then the main entrance to the development is at Allen Road. And Allen Road becomes Allen Road East when you enter the development. And so circled on this plan are the areas that we want to address tonight. They're circled in red, and these are lots. They're the only lots that have yet to be developed in South Village. So this is our balance to complete. And the largest yellow, it's a funny shape, down in sort of in the bottom of the big red circle, we had originally, the original developer, not even us, was hoping that a school might want to be attracted to South Village, but that turned out to be never viable. So that lot has been sitting there for quite a long time. And then we call that lot 11. To the left of that, it's a light blue lot. We call that lot 11A. And that's where we're looking to put a mixed use, limited neighborhood commercial building. And then above it is a white empty lot, and that's where the soccer field and its related parking would go. And then in the separate circle in the a little bit more and up to the right, we are planning for 4 duplexes, which would be 8 units, 50% of which would be affordable housing. Back to the large, odd yellow-shaped lot. We're planning on cutting that pretty much in half, bisecting it and developing half of it. And then the other half, we're actually giving half of that half to the farm, and another piece putting just into recreational space, open space for the neighborhood. And the same thing in that upper circle with the light blue and the bright green, that's the area that will be broken into 5 lots, and one of those lots, the 5th lot, also will be dedicated open space. So overall, we feel real good about this. We are creating more open space from the land that we had left to develop, and we are concentrating develop in a very positive way, in a concentrated way. 50% of the units we're bringing forward will be affordable homes. The other 50% will be market rate, but they'll be market rate at the same dimension as the affordable, so slightly smaller and more affordable than some of the other homes that are in existence in today at South Village. And the soccer field has been very long awaited by all the residents of South Village, and I believe the Parks and Rec Department as well. That is something that was conceived of way back in the early 2000s, that the recreation fees that are charged for each zoning permit at South Village would be accrued in an escrow account with the city. And that those fees would one day pay for this amenity to be built at South Village. It will be a city amenity, as was noted in the staff notes. And then the smallest lot, the little light blue one in the lower left-hand corner, we have been working with the city through the Planning Commission and then the City Council to have a limited neighborhood commercial use there. We're looking to have a 1.5-story building, which would be limited to the limited neighborhood commercial uses, which are restaurant, dine-in or takeout, personal instruction, childcare. I think that's it. It's a very limited use, and that is a use that we began with working with the Planning Commission back in 2015. They charged us with doing a lot of homework and a lot of research and a lot of community engagement, which we did, and we're very, very happy with the outcome. All of the quite a bit of participation with the neighbors and the villagers within South Village in coming up with a plan that everyone could agree upon. And when we presented that to the Planning Commission liked it. They invented the limited neighborhood use, which has since been adopted and is now part of the LDRs. So that's kind of our snapshot.
Okay. Are there any questions from the council? I have one. I'll start off. In terms of the 4 duplexes, half of which are affordable,
Mhm.
and then you said and then there are also the other half are affordable at market rate. Are these perpetually affordable? Are they rentals? How do you?
They will be perpetually affordable. They will, their deeds they'll be deed restricted to always be affordable. They could be an affordable rental or they could be affordable ownership. At this point, we're intending affordable ownership, but
Okay.
either way, in perpetuity.
Okay, so will you use a third party to manage that, or will it be the HOA?
It will be the HOA and the city. We've been working with Kevin's office and the Planning Commission, and we've actually already have units which are deed restricted to be affordable in perpetuity, and those forms have been accepted by the city, and we already have developed a process together where the forms are renewed every year so that there's assurance that they are indeed being used for affordable folks with affordable means.
And do you have a ballpark price of what is now deemed affordable?
I don't, we had thought it was somewhere in the 250 to 280 range, but things are changing so fast in building, both in building expense and in the economic situation that it's hard to pin it down exactly.
Okay. Thank you. Those are my questions. Megan and then Matt.
Yeah, no, beautiful. I wanted to know, and I understand that wood is very expensive right now. And is there any interest, just to piggyback off of what you said, but I did have another question, to wait in order to purchase those building materials before moving ahead so that it could truly remain more affordable? My question is, what is the calculation that you use in order to determine what is affordable? Is it a median of, the Chittenden County salary range or South Burlington salary range, or?
It's based on South Burlington median income. And it's a formula we take directly out of the LDRs, actually. And I see a question on my screen from Roseanne Greco asking, is it 80% of the median income for South Burlington? And it is for a rental, and it's up to 100% for a purchase.
Okay.
And would you ever wait till the building materials, the price comes down again, or are you not expecting that?
No, it's looking at the rate we're going. And with their permitting through Act 250 and the continued process, that it will be fall before we could begin. So we're hoping that in 2022 that the prices for lumber will be better.
Let's hope.
We hope for in all of our home building projects that becomes the case.
Matt, Coda?
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, Robert.
I have a process question for Marla, and maybe Patrick or Robin might follow up on this. 4 of the items have gone to final plat. 2 of the items we have heard at sketch prior when I was on the development review board. Is this was a decision that the developer made to go through interim zoning in this way, or did we not? Is this something that we just realized had to go through interim zoning? I'm just curious. I know you can go at any point in the process, go before the city council, make sure when we're on interim zoning, but Marla, do you have any insight into why it's presented this way rather than many of the other ones, which are before sketch or concurrently with sketch?
This was just a choice, and they're fully welcome to make that choice.
Yeah.
Okay, are there any other questions? Oh, Tim Barrett.
Yeah, so has the DRB already reviewed all of these proposed amendments?
The DRB we've had sketch plan review on everything. And then we've actually had final plat and master plat on all of the duplexes in lot 11, but we have not had final plat on the soccer field and the limited commercial.
Yeah, we had a sketch plan on limited commercial and the soccer field, but everything else is nearly done.
And the other question was the left-hand turn lanes. Can you explain more about that?
Sure. The traffic counts that were done originally for South Village were taken when Route 7 was under construction. And so almost all Route 7 traffic had been diverted to Spear Street. And so over the past 3 or 4 years, we've had to have the traffic counts redone for all of our submittals since then. And consistently, the numbers have dropped. And we were actually conditioned by the DRB from our first request to wait for another request until we were more established through build out. And the numbers still are far reduced from what they were. So they're no longer warranted.
Where are those left turn lanes? I didn't understand. On the
Oh,
map.
there was one at Preserve Road, which is the most northern entrance, and one at South Jefferson, which is the most southern entrance, both of them on Spear Street.
Oh, on Spear Street. Oh, so you'd have to widen Spear coming south to
Yes.
create a left-hand turn lane to go into Preserve, and then this. Oh, and then the same coming south at yeah. Okay. I see.
Yes.
So there's south turning lanes. Okay.
But you do have
both.
one. You do have one at the main entrance at Allen, right?
I don't
Yes, we
know.
do.
And it's controlled by a light.
It's light controlled, and we find most people go to that light if they're going to be making
Yeah. Okay.
a turn that isn't in favor of traffic.
Right. And how will drivers get to the soccer field? Will they have to cross that small blue commercial lot?
Yes, they would cross that small blue lot. There's actually a road there currently, which leads up to the solar array.
Okay.
So that road would just be improved.
Okay.
And the solar array is that square that has an H on it? Just north?
It's just north of the big red circle.
Okay.
What? The big red circle.
Well, what I have circled in red ink.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Your lasso, your red lasso around.
Yeah, my red lasso
yellow line,
above the
blue line,
lasso
the white line.
is a perfect square. That is where the solar array is.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
That's it.
Are there any other questions from councilors? Are there any questions from the public? Oh, Megan, you have another question?
Was it truly because the school just fell through? Is that the reason for the change? Yes, says Dave Marshall. Okay, that was really just a simple kind of what triggered this. Thank
Okay. Anyone else wish to make a comment or ask a question? Ariel? Will you start again, Ariel? We can't hear you. No, we still can't.
Still can't hear.
Sometimes you have to turn it off and then turn it on again.
I'll
Okay, how
speak
about now?
up. Oh, perfect.
Now we can hear you.
Okay, yeah. So my concern is about any fertilizer or pesticide runoff from the soccer field because right adjacent is an organic farm. And a lot of the runoff from the rainwater is actually forming little wetlands along the pedestrian path. So I'm just wondering how we're going to keep those chemicals away from the agricultural part.
Our bylaws, my voice sounds funny. Sorry about that. Our bylaws forbid the use of pesticides and fertilizers that are not organic. So I expect this will be the most novel soccer field in South Burlington. And it'll be a great experiment and a learning curve, but they're not allowed at South Village anywhere.
Can I follow up on Ariel's question, which is excellent? Because she also, is that possible, Helen?
Yes, go ahead. Yes.
She posted on Facebook, and I shared her post where there were, just along curbs, there were wildflowers that had been planted along with tall grasses. And we know that our pollinators need to have tall grasses. And So it's just something I'm sharing our conversation, our online conversation. I traveled to visit family in Scotland, and what they had in Scotland is you got, further away from the city, but nevertheless in town, between lots of houses, they had, just the skinny little lots that we have between our individual single family homes or perhaps townhouses. They left that land just to grow, that the grass is just to grow. So they had manicured lawn in front of their home, but in between their homes, they left the grasses to grow long. And I just thought that was brilliant, because you can go out with your kids, you don't have to worry so much about ticks and all these things, but yet you're letting the insects and the critters have their land too. And I just wanted to, I'm not gonna, impose anything on you, but since you're so forward looking, I just wanted to share that with you, that this is something that I want to do at my house. And I know neighbors who do it. And it is something that I think is really environmentally responsible and sound.
Sure. Common Roots, actually, all of their organic honey supply is based at South Village, at the farm at South Village. And I know they have a very lucrative crop. So we're doing something right. I think the acres and acres of meadow really help with all that.
So there's a question in the chat, or a comment from Roseanne Greco. During a recent council meeting, someone mentioned that the soccer field is proposed to be built on prime ag soil. And prime ag is the absolute best and most fertile soil. And there's very little of this type of soil in South Burlington. Is that accurate for the spot where you've identified the soccer field? And if that is so, since you have an organic farm there, is it possible to switch it over to 11? I think it's 11, right? The big yellow squarish.
I don't have the soil types memorized, but I'm guessing that Dave from CEA may, so I'm going to defer to him on that one.
Is he
Hello, Dave
online?
Marshall here from CEA. Yes, there are primary agricultural soils within the proposed soccer field. With regard to the quality of those particular soils, on a rating system of 0 to 8, where 8 is the worst of the primary agricultural soils, these particular soils are rated as 6. There are some soils that are further south on the property that are as low as number 3, but otherwise, these are the classic lake bottom Covington soils, as well as the Virgin's clays. So very challenging to farm, can be done. Good for hay type of product, but otherwise, it is lower on the list in regards to primary agricultural soils as recognized by the state.
Okay, and parcel 11 or lot 11, is that better soil since you're giving it
It's
over to
actually
the farm?
we're topographically challenged. It starts to fall off and it's not flat for soccer field construction. It also has a wetland that's next to it. So in this particular case, lot 11 does, I'm sorry, I'm thinking of lot 11A. Lot 11 is more sloping, and it would require a significant amount of additional grading work in order to achieve the placement of a soccer field there.
Okay. All right, Michael Mittag?
Yes, I had a quick follow-up question on Ariel and Robin's comments about pesticide. This soccer field is transferred, transferred to the city. Will the same restrictions which apply to the rest of South Burlington with reference to pesticides and fertilizers, will those restrictions apply to city-owned soccer field within South Village?
Yes, that's a Kevin question.
I know from Tom that we do not use pesticide on the Veterans Park there, the Dorset Athletic Fields, but there's Kevin, he could maybe.
Michael, can you repeat the question?
The question was whether the restrictions on the use of pesticide and certain types of fertilizer, which are in the South Village bylaws, would then also apply to the city when it owns the soccer field, when it's transferred to the city, when the soccer field is transferred to the city.
My assumption is that it would be, Michael, because we would be part of the overall South Village community. Whether or not that's legally enforceable, I don't know. Tom, you have any thoughts about that?
It's also in our city parks ordinance.
Okay.
So I guess it'd be double covered in this instance.
Good.
Hey, folks, I just have a little bit of a issue for you, Helen. We're still in a public hearing here.
Oh, right.
and
And only
all the
interested parties could ask questions, right?
the comments should be, folks have not been sworn in into the proceeding. And so I don't know necessarily how you want to deal with that, but just to make it official, this is an interim zoning application, and there are requirements for these hearings.
My apologies. So the people who have asked questions or spoken, I think they also.
I swear to tell the truth.
I swear to tell the truth and write the truth.
Marla, do you have some guidance on this as it relates to
Yeah.
how the?
How do I
PRP
correct this, Marla?
Sure. So you can swear people in individually if they didn't plan to speak originally. Also, if someone is just interested in asking a question rather than having interested person status, it's all right if they're not sworn in.
Okay. So are we okay with not swearing in Roseanne and Michael? Was there anyone else that asked a question? I don't think so.
Ariel Jensen Vargas.
Oh, that's right. I think Ariel got sworn in, but anyway, so if you're okay with that, those three have made comments. So is there anyone who has status or was sworn in who wishes to make a statement or ask a question? Jen Rand? Would
Good
you
evening.
like to be sworn in?
I already was sworn in.
Oh, okay. I apologize.
Thank you. Norm Staunton, representing Jen Rand, the homeowner at 1751 Spear Street, which for reference on your map is the plot directly across the street from where Preserve Road dumps back into Spear. Thank you for taking a couple of minutes just to hear some comments. I have no real concerns about this particular set of interim zoning variances that are being requested. What I wanted to remind the council of is that the interim zoning application previously continued is directly adjacent to this same piece of property. And so you're talking about an intense amount of development between Allen and north to South Point, as well as an increased amount of traffic coming through that area between new homes at both PUDs and for the soccer field. It's just a lot of potential development and a lot of potential traffic coming through that area that's already currently congested and frankly difficult to get in and out of private homes there. So just some thoughts for consideration.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we end up with that iterative process with development. You know, these 9 homes don't do anything, and then the next 9, and then the next 30, and all of a sudden you do have a problem.
Helen, is that where we're going to be widening the road for the bike lanes? I know I know that Bob Britt's here somewhere.
Britt, is he here? Yeah, he was. Bob, if you can hear us, there he is. Yeah. Is this the place along Spear Street that will be widened for the bike lane?
This is where you swear him in, because this would be considered testimony rather than.
Oh, okay. So if you wish to speak, so raise your right hand. You promise to tell the whole truth and nothing but?
I do.
Okay, thank you. So can you answer that question?
Yeah, I mean, I had asked that question with the Long project, or suggested that the road be widened along that stretch between South Point and Preserve, and that a sidewalk be built. But again, that was personally not for bike and ped. And and so I still intend to talk to the DRB on the, what is it, May 6th or May 3rd? Or whenever, May 4th, I guess the next long meeting is.
Bob, there was also, we just got word of, what is it, a $300,000 grant in order to put bike lanes on Spear Street.
Yeah, that's between the U.S. Forest Service building and Swift Street. So
That's,
it's
yeah, that's way down.
north of
Right.
this.
Robin, did you have a clarifying comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to offer the information that in all of the development along South Village, there is a 20-foot easement all along Spear Street for eventual pedestrian improvements if the city were to move forward with those.
Okay, any other, Roseanne, you had your hand up. Did you want to make another comment?
Yes, and I'm happy to swear in and swear to tell the truth if that,
Okay,
you know.
so done. Okay,
Okay.
you got it.
I have a specific question and then a general comment, and back to the soccer field. So I thought it was Kevin Dorn that said, this was when we were discussing the Wheeler property, that we had to mitigate the loss of prime ag soil or fertile soil, arable soil. I mean, there's different categories, but it's all fertile, right? But we had to mitigate the loss of this soil by putting the soccer field on it. So we were going to use Wheeler area to mitigate. So if the soil, I just heard somebody said it was not good soil. I think if you look, the Sustainable Agriculture Report did map out where the soils are. So we have that. I would assume well, I don't know if the city looked at that, or if the developer looked at that, but if it's prime ag soil, we shouldn't be building on it. You know, the South Village built houses on the best soil and put the farm on the least fertile soil. Let's not do it again with a soccer field. So that's my specific plea. My general comment is, this seems to be a huge enterprise. It's called an amendment, but it's not just tweaking. Let's put this here rather than this here. It's a whole new development with commercial and housing and all that. I guess I don't understand. If you have a master plan approved, but then you can come in and pretty much change the whole thing. I know, you know, Matt knows this process and Tim knows this process, but this seems to be a whole new development, and I think it shouldn't be. It should be given a whole lot of thought. Just like the gentleman said earlier, you're connecting, you know, this house, and all of a sudden you got, you know, you've wiped out more of the Great Swamp, which I think this will do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Kevin, there was an earlier question that Roseanne was alluding to, and that is finding, I don't know how many acres the soccer field area is, but finding other property to mitigate that somewhere in South Burlington. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, actually, Dave Marshall knows more about this than I do because we researched this matter and Dave was a resource for us, but we can't use the Wheeler property
Right.
for offsite mitigation of this disturbed ag soils. So we'll have to take some other measure, which could be a contribution to the land trust, whatever is called for by Act 250. But recent rule change has said that if you're going to do offsite mitigation, it has to be on a property that is contingent to the existing property. So we can't use Wheeler for that purpose.
It has to be contiguous?
I'm not contingent, contiguous. Thanks, Tim.
Oh, okay. And you can't use Underwood either then, right?
No.
So just to follow up on this, I mean, I'm seeing a lot of wetlands. That's something that Dave Marshall has said. Looking at the other parcels, 11, 11A. Anyway, I have to get there again. I might have just said the wrong thing there. I'm sorry. Let me just get there again. But what I would say is has the Common Roots Farm asked for a specific parcel? I mean, I think that something that, we need to keep in mind, and Dave went through the different classifications, but if there is a farm that is stepping up to farm that land, I think that's something that, we should know about. If there is not a farm asking for that land, looking at these maps, it seems that the wetlands are pretty much in every other area, which I think would be an inhibitor to having a soccer field. Dave also said that there was some slope. And I think that something that was said earlier about respecting the natural land, I completely agree with that. I am opposed to blasting ledge. That unless we have a farm saying we absolutely want that land and the city is denying us that prime ag land, it seems to me that we're respecting the topography. We're respecting by putting the soccer field there and not regrading another wetland area, that we are in fact respecting the natural site, and I am in favor of that. So I just wanted to put that out there. Hopefully I was clear.
Okay, Robin, do you have a response?
I just wanted to add, I think it got lost somewhere, that with this subdivision, we actually are increasing the size of the farm. We're adding approximately an acre to the farm land and another, just about an acre to the community for recreational play space. And the farm is happy to be getting the additional land, and the neighborhood's happy to get the play space. And everyone that I've ever talked to at South Village has their heart set on this soccer field.
Ellen,
Okay,
I just
so
want to confirm that that's what we heard in the development review process through the sketch plan that we've already heard from the neighbors that have come forward. The soccer field is a great idea that Parks and Rec have signed off on, that the neighbors have signed off on, and that the developer has provided. So I think it's a great project.
And am I understanding you, Robin, that is it the current farm is interested in this additional, is it an acre or whatever? I don't know how big it is.
We're giving them part of lot 11.
Part of 11, okay.
Which is right along there. There's a new farm, a new road, a new and permanent road is going into the farm. And this lot is alongside there, and it is not wet, which is very important to them.
Okay, so Common Roots is interested in farming this.
Common Roots
right?
is interested in farming the land that we are offering to add on to the farm. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Patrick O'Brien?
Yep, thank you. I would just like to add that, yes, Common Roots currently leases the farm, but it's important to note that there already is room for them to grow. I would estimate that probably 30%, maybe even 35% of the farmland that has soils that are equal to or better to the soccer field are currently not being actively used by the farm. So there is still room to grow even if the soccer field is put into play.
Thank you. Any other questions? Megan?
And just to reiterate, I do not see someone here from South Village saying we don't want this to be a soccer field. I think that's an important thing to note. But also, a soccer field is not like digging a foundation. I mean, they're not using pesticides. They're having children run on it and kicking a ball. If someday someone wants to till that land and to grow something on it, I don't see that a soccer field is going to be preventing that future use. Am I wrong?
I think you're correct if that's what the city wanted to do, because it's intended to be ceded to the city.
So we would have to change our mind. Patrick?
I'd just like to point out that you're 100% correct. Familiar with those soils and preparing the application that soon will be submitted to ACT. But the point is that the specification for the soccer field includes several inches of topsoil need to be put on top. Ironically, if the city in the future wanted to till that field and have the farm take it over, be better suited then and have better soils right there today.
Okay. And the parking lot that's adjacent to it, is that going to be paved or is that, crushed stone or whatever? So it's a permeable.
At this juncture, it's crushed stone, but again, that would be up to the city.
Okay. Let's see. Someone had their hand up, but I don't.
Ariel.
No, Ariel, excuse me. Thank you.
Yes, I happen to live in South Village, and my dream would have it to not just be a soccer field. For example, sometimes they have those outdoor stations where you could do sit-ups or pull-ups or something that they have along the walkway in Burlington, so that people can kind of do like a little circuit, fitness circuit on the edges or some kind of walkway. But that's just, probably adding cost, but since the question came up.
Okay. Are there any other comments or questions, concerns, facts we need to hear? Okay. Seeing none with my little piece of paper.
Do you want a motion to close the,
I think
hearing?
so.
so I move
Second.
that we, okay, go ahead. I move to close. Yeah.
Second.
Do we need a date? And we just close it, so
45 days from date of
45,
closure.
okay, so it was made by Tim and seconded by Megan. There's no further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we have approved that, I guess, under interim zoning.
No,
we
we've
haven't
closed
approved
it. We've closed it. We'll deliberate in the next 45
We'll
days. It's your
deliberate,
decision.
right. Okay, we have one more zoning application, and this one is IZ 2102 of Brendan Connolly to create a planned unit development of 3 lots by subdividing a 7.9 acre lot developed with an existing single-family home into lot 1, 7.02 acres, and lot 3, 0.48 acres, lot 4.48 acres for the purpose of developing a single-family home on each of lots 3 and 4 and retaining the existing single-family home, lots 3 and 4, period. Lots 3 and 4 would be accessed off Sadie Lane, and the address is 1 Johnson Way. And I understand lot 2 is not lost, that's already been subdivided and developed. It's not like somewhere else. Okay, so do we have, who is here to speak to this? Brendan, are you the only one?
Brian Courier also.
Okay, and are there any interested parties who wish to add comment and facts? Who would like to be sworn in? Seeing
Hi, good
none,
evening. It's
pardon me?
Brendan Connolly here and my wife, Alexandra. She's off camera, but currently feeding our newborn baby daughter.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
So why don't I swear you two in? So have you sworn in yet? No. Raise your hand, and do you promise to tell the truth and nothing but?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Okay, so carry on. I guess, Brendan, are you going to lead off? Or is Brian doing it?
I think I'm going to give you a quick overview, Helen.
Okay, go ahead.
So the property is probably better known as 1700 Dorset Street, following a 3-lot subdivision from the previous landowner The old driveway was deemed a new roadway that's now called Johnson Way, and the parent parcel is 5 Johnson Way. The parent parcel is just under 8 acres, and we're proposing a 3-lot subdivision to create 2 new single-family lots to be accessed off Sadie Lane. And they're both just under half an acre. It's a good infill development opportunity. There's no construction of new public infrastructure and very little impact to the existing infrastructure. We're proposing municipal connections. The wetlands on the property are being delineated by a split rail fence. We were in for we submitted a sketch plan application to the Development Review Board about a month ago, and we had good feedback from the board. Most of the comments were about the orientation of the buildings. They wanted to see them oriented more towards the west. We're kind of facing northwest right now, and that was to create a line of homes along Sadie Lane and keep that pattern with this small development. Other comments were regarding screening to the north, and very little public comment. Again, a small project, but we're here asking to being able to move on to preliminary through interim zoning, and we're here to answer any of your questions.
Okay, can I ask a question? The square in front of the blue and the red one that are with the yellow squares, are there 2 houses on that now?
There is not. No, the yellow squares are proposed. Yep.
So what is in front of them along Dorset Street?
There's a wetland in between those houses. Oh, so I think you're looking at the 2 that are drawn in just north of the house that's on Dorset Street.
Right.
We didn't have an ortho photo that showed the houses because they were built fairly new, fairly recent.
Okay.
So those 2
new
are existing, yes. And towards the east, the yellow squares are the new single-family lots for this project.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the rest of that 7, almost 8 acre parcel, is that mostly wetland? So it won't be developed in the future or can't be?
Yeah, it'd be pretty tough. When we were in for a sketch plan, one of the things that staff wanted us to look into was whether we could cross the wetlands in order to reach the southern part of the parcel that's uplands. And I have done my homework and have had a conversation with the wetlands program. And to date, they don't believe that the development potential on the other side of the wetland would warrant a crossing. So they're in favor of the development as proposed.
Okay, so the original home is going to continue to own and pay taxes on those 7 acres.
Correct. You know, it could be developed maybe in cooperation with one of the neighboring parcels, maybe the one to the south. But as far as accessing it from the 1700 Dorset or Johnson Way, I would say it's very unlikely due to the size of the wetland at that point.
Okay. Do you have other information to share with us, or are you ready for questions?
We're ready for questions.
Any questions from the council?
Could you leave the picture back up, please?
Yeah.
Did my ceiling else?
Marla, do you concur with all the information given so far?
Yes.
Helen?
Yes.
So I remember this original proposal when we had the 2-lot subdivision, and there was a proposal to put a lot behind the wetland. I'm trying to remember, Marla, you probably have this.
Yes, so I think I remember, I think I know where you're going.
What happened here that we didn't approve that lot behind the wetland, but now essentially we're getting there through Sadie Lane.
Right. At that time, Sadie Lane had not yet been accepted as a public road.
Got it.
So they didn't have permission to build this driveway that they're now proposing.
So in fact, rather than do it as one project and one plat approval, they can get to it this way now that Sadie Lane is a public road.
Exactly.
Yep, makes sense. Got it.
Yep, thank you. Any
Do they
other
need an
questions?
easement? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Do they need an easement for the driveway to connect to City Lane? Who owns the land that's right adjacent to the rec path? Is that city land?
It
Or
is. It's actually part of a right of way that was a part way back, part of the Cider Mill Phase 1 parcel. The original right of way was the Dorset Associates, but it didn't end up getting used, and Sadie Lane was constructed within that neighboring right of way. So the northern parcel directly abuts that existing right of way. And then there is we're proposing a 30-foot right of way to get to the southern parcel through the northern parcel.
So do you need an easement for that from the owner of that northern lot?
So we're proposing both of the new lots. The northern one, the yellow square on the northern side, we're proposing a 30-foot driveway easement through that lot in order to get to the southern lot. And those lots, our parcel directly abuts the right of way to Sadie Lane.
Okay. Thank you.
Is the positioning of those houses amenable to solar roof? Or are they, I mean, it seems like it's the wrong tilt.
Yeah, one of the comments we got at the DRB level right now, they're oriented kind of northwest, was to orient them towards the west to match the units on Dorset Street and to match the new units that are being constructed on Sadie Lane. Again, our ortho is a little out of date as Sadie Lane's a new project, but there's 2 single-family lots to the north of us that are also oriented towards the west. So, yeah, one of the comments they had was orient these to the west as well. Now that doesn't mean we can't orient a roof line towards the south, but the feedback was orient them towards the west.
So I would just jump in here and say, you know, I would like us to perhaps give feedback that if it can be oriented to the south, maybe that's what we should convey as, you know, something that this council, this, you know, board, IZ board, considers to be a valuable feature.
Well, Megan, it all depends upon where the peak of the roof is, right? And which way that the pitch goes. If the pitch travels southeast, I mean, southeast is, I think it's probably preferable to directly west. I mean, I live in the cider mill and there are a few homes in there that have they've put panels on the east side, a little bit on the south, you know, on the side of a dormer so it faces south. I mean, trying to grab every angle they can because the house isn't situated with one broad side perfectly south. The development that has really great southern exposure in its orientation is Link Road, which is the next development north of the cider mill. So I urge the developer, whatever you can do to maximize the solar collectivity, if that's a word, for your orientation, that would be great.
Yep.
Helen?
And one of the neighbors to the north, I think 2 lots north, has actually erected a solar array in their yard. It's not actually on their house, it's in their yard. And it faces directly, you know, like just a little bit southeast. It's like southeast.
Yep.
Okay, is there someone who wanted to speak? I heard a little, oh, Tom, your hand matches your back wall, so I didn't see it.
I still need to take a DRB class, but I got one comment on this, and I would just love if when this goes forward, there is some barbed wire back from when there was only cows out in this part of town. And I'd love for all that really dangerous barbed wire to get ripped out all along that line. It's just a hazard with the amount of kids and public pedestrian traffic around there. So I don't know what that's worth commenting here, but it's an 80-year-old barbed wire that's just begging to cause somebody problems.
Agree 100%. Take it out.
Tom duly noted that that could be taken care of. Absolutely.
Yeah, but it keeps the riffraff off the land.
And all the animals, if you're. Okay, well, we have lots of people who think solar panels should be faced south. Ours are southwest, so I don't know. But I think the installers probably know best. Are there any other questions or comments? All righty. So I go back to my cheat sheet here. So I would entertain, I guess, a motion to either close or continue. What's
Move.
your
We'll close, yes.
to close? Okay, Megan moves and Tim seconds. All in favor to close this hearing? Say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
And have a good
Thank you
sleep,
all
we
for your
hope, Brendan.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
I hope you can
Cheers.
sleep.
Thank you all.
All
Nice
right.
to see all of you. Bye-bye.
Congratulations, yeah. All righty, so moving on to item 8. Oh, we have to come out of the public hearing, or have we already? No,
I'll
we
move
didn't.
that we exit the public hearing.
In a second? All in favor? Aye. Okay, so we've exited. So now we'll move on to item 8, which is interviewing the applicants. I'm gonna have to bring that up on a, I have the sheet that was printed, but I don't know the order that people were asked to speak. Is Joyce Wurtzer, was she, I don't know who was supposed to be up first. Who was scheduled at 7, what are we at, 8:30?
I was. Joyce Barker.
Oh, okay, so maybe it's in order. All right, so Joyce, you're interested in serving on the Development Review Board. And there is, let's see, a 4-year term and a 3-year term. So there's just 2. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? I don't know if I can bring up your resume. Joyce, we can only
Okay.
see the light and on your ceiling, so maybe you can move your screen just a touch, please.
Good evening. I saw the ad in the local paper for the Development Review Board, and I thought this might be something that could make use of my commercial and residential real estate experience. I moved to South Burlington in 2016 from Florida, where I had worked for large and small lending institutions, specializing in project finance of all type, office buildings, shopping centers, industrial and residential as well, doing tract housing projects, apartment projects, and things of that nature. So I thought this might be a good use of my experience to participate on the Development Review Board.
Okay. Have you had the chance to sit in on one of the meetings?
No, I have not.
Okay. Do you understand the time commitment? It's, I mean, I think Matt can probably tell you how many hours you need to prepare for each meeting, Matt.
Well,
Of course,
several.
it depends, yeah.
Depends on the meeting, but several hours
Okay.
before
And
every
you,
meeting.
and you meet every.
How long do you have to prepare, Matt?
Marla is fantastic, and she provides our packets with a week in advance.
Okay. Yeah, that's great.
Good. I have a question, if I could.
Certainly, go ahead.
Hi, Joyce. I'm Megan.
Hi.
And the question I have is, you're the person on the street looking at, your neighbors' homes or a neighborhood, and you're looking at homes. And what kind of features do you notice about not just the homes, but the street? About what things do you value in that particular development?
Well, being that I financed a lot of projects. And the approval process as far as getting a project approved was extremely relevant to making decisions on financing. I do have a lot of experience with that. So, I mean, to me, one of the biggest things that I'm always looking for is ingress and egress, orientation of what's proposed to be built. I was listening to the prior discussion about those two lots and how they might want to swing them around to make the neighborhood look a little more uniform, and also, of course, with the solar array. Architectural features were something that we looked at.
Such as? Such as?
Such as roofs. How are you doing your roofs? What was the landscaping proposed? What was the efficiency of the home that was going to be built? Likewise, in looking at apartment projects, I would look at not only the site plan, but the layouts, and make determinations on whether or not I felt that they were feasible. I did that for over 30 years and did a lot of large projects, some smaller projects. And, from a dollar standpoint, I did everything from 1 to like $50 million. So a long track record of being involved directly with real estate, and, the features that are relevant, just as what I heard discussed, are things that were part of our requirements in order to be able to look at the feasibility of financing these projects.
When you look at a house, what feature stands out? Just
well, does it blend in the neighborhood? Are you building a palace next to more moderate homes? What's the architectural design of the homes?
Do you notice windows? Do you notice doors, garages?
Of course.
Thank you. We need an eye, Joyce. That's why I'm asking you all these questions.
Yeah.
Helen,
So,
maybe I can ask a
oh.
leading question.
You may.
So, Joyce, did you ever, in your real estate experience, did you do one-on-one sales with customers who were seeking houses, or was it more finance related and large projects?
Large project finance.
Okay. So no.
I
like,
never
taking-
did individual. I never
Okay.
ever did individual mortgages.
I understand. Okay. Thank you.
So my question, do you ask a lot of questions? Do you like to get into the nitty gritty, could anyone ever describe you as a nitpicker?
No, I wouldn't say I'm a nitpicker. I would say I'm very detail oriented, and that the kind of work that I did required intense analysis. But no, not nitpicky.
Okay, but are you comfortable asking lots of questions of a?
Yes. I mean, that when you're making a loan on a $5 million property, you ask every question under the sun, and a lot of experience of dealing with developers. And no, I'm not shy about asking questions, but I don't ask frivolous questions.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Other questions? All right.
So she has attended some meetings?
No, she had.
No, I have not.
Oh, okay, okay. Thank you.
All righty. So seeing, is there anything we should know about you that we haven't asked all that many questions, but, or wasn't on this extensive application?
It wasn't very extensive,
No,
but
I was thinking, yeah.
no, no, I was wondering why I wasn't asked to supply a resume. You know, a resume would have provided a lot of interesting information in terms of what I've done. You know, I spent a lot of years belonging to large real estate organizations and serving as secretary to NAIOP, which I know you don't have that here, but it is a national organization. And I was on the board of directors of the South Florida chapter, which had typically over 300 members. And, you know, I spent a lot of time involved in that, which exposed me to developers, brokers, attorneys, architects, engineers, you know, lots of things like that. There's a big component is you really have to underwrite the project from top to bottom. So you don't only look at how visually appealing it may be, but you know, how much is it going to cost? What's the financial feasibility of doing a project of that nature? And I'm thinking that I might be a valuable addition to the Development Review Board, but that'll be up to you.
One last question.
Can I just ask you, what brought you to South Burlington?
That was my question.
What
children.
attracted you to South Burlington?
Yeah, no, my children, in late 2015, my son had a baby and my first grandchild was born. And I had a really, really good job in Florida. I was a senior vice president at a bank. And I just gave it all up to come here and be with my family. And my son and his wife and my 5.5-year-old granddaughter, now 5.5, live right down the block from me. So, and my daughter is also here. So I moved here to be with family.
Got it. Okay. Matt.
Joyce, welcome to Vermont. We're glad to have you. Usually it goes the other way, where Vermonters move to Florida and establish residence there. So we're glad to have you here. Question I have is on the DRB, of course, we're a quasi judicial body and we have to rule on projects. So sometimes we have to, sometimes you have to recuse yourself if there's a conflict of interest. Are you doing any financing of real estate here in South Burlington since you've moved up?
No, I'm retired now. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Megan.
Yep. I'm looking at everything through a climate change lens. So I'm curious to know, Joyce, if you would use the same lens as you're considering projects as a DRB member.
Well, I think we're all real concerned about climate change at this point. So I would say yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Well, I want to also welcome you and thank you for your interest and your application. And we'll consider it carefully. We, this process will take a couple meetings. Excuse me. So, and then we will privately meet and make all our decisions on all the different boards. So we will let you know as soon as possible. And thank you very much for your interest. And lastly, do you have any questions for us?
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to see you. Okay, thank you.
You know, the the suggestion of attending one of the Development Review Board meetings is of interest to me. So somebody wants to send me the information. I would be interested in attending. I just thought when I saw it in the newspaper, this is something that I can use 30 some odd years of experience and create value. So that, that preceded my thought of sitting through a meeting.
Great, okay. Well, I think you can go to our, I know you can go to our website, the city website, and all the meetings are posted there, and they're open to the public, and they're all like this Zoom and with the same kind of process to join, and anyone may sit in and listen.
Okay, and what is the time frame in terms of
Oh, I'm
decisions
sorry.
being made?
They meet Tuesdays. Is it?
Yeah,
7
no, I
o'clock?
wasn't, yeah.
Oh,
I was curious about the process for assessing the applicants and at what point you think you would be notifying people.
I don't know how many. We're doing about 10 tonight, and I think we have, Kevin, help me, maybe 10 more at another meeting in 2 weeks.
Helen,
Okay.
I think you can anticipate both meetings in May. You'll be interviewing people.
Okay, so
So-
it won't be till June, early June.
I think there's roughly
Okay.
30 open.
Okay,
Okay, all right, sounds good.
you can always
to meet
email us
you.
and see, have you made a decision yet? We don't mind being bugged about that.
All right,
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, Joyce.
all right, bye.
Okay, next up is Ariel Jensen Vargas. Ariel, you're interested in Affordable Housing Committee and Development Review, although affordable housing is your top pick, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So tell us why you're interested.
Affordable housing was the subject of my thesis for my master's in public administration, which I finished in 2018. So I also am a landlord and I'm a tenant. SD Ireland is actually my landlord, and I live in South Village. And I'm also dedicated to environmental, sustainable, and inclusive communities in Vermont. And I would just like to help basically do the great work that's been done already to create these communities and help move them forward.
Okay. I think you've attended some of the Affordable Housing Committee meetings.
Well, it's like I'm not officially a member, but I've been attending since 2019. So I basically attend the city council meetings, the Affordable Housing Committee, and sometimes the Development Review Board, because sometimes something is covered in one meeting and then it's discussed in another. So, and I feel like I'm missing a piece of the puzzle if I'm missing one of the meetings. So I just listen in.
Okay.
And ask
So
any questions.
are you experienced dealing with policy issues? Or can you describe your experience with policy issues, developing them and?
Yeah, so my interest was really affordable housing when I was getting my master's, but what I was using as a way to talk about it was the gas piping regulations and that were being put into place for safety reasons, and how actually by increasing the safety for these gas lines that were being installed, or updating old gas lines, was creating too much of a a burden on lower and middle income homeowners who were then forced into foreclosure. So I actually was working with a licensed master plumber for 9 years. So I probably know a lot more than your average person about gas and plumbing.
Well, you can sit next to Matt Coda at the next meeting.
So I've owned and managed properties for the last 20 years, both in the city and in the Adirondacks. So I've dug a French drain, I've installed roofing, I've had frozen pipes, the whole, and everything in between. So, and I feel like I see the issue from both sides, both from the tenant and from the landlord side.
Okay. And you have the time and willingness to devote time outside of committee meetings to do little projects or?
Yeah. So I'm just, I'm actually a multitasker. So, but as I've been my first project actually, and listening into these meetings, was to construct for myself a glossary of terms. That was the first thing, because I would actually want to pass that on to any new members.
That would be smart.
Its own vocabulary. So it took me a while. I just was like listening, and to me, it was like learning another language, just to get all the acronyms together.
Sometimes they do that in the legislature too. I've had committees where I needed the glossary. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think you're patient? Because affordable housing is a long-term gig.
Yeah, I know. And you know what? I have to hand it to you. When I saw that this meeting started at 6:30 and ended at 10:30, I was like, heaven help you. I hope you already have that Pizza Hut on speed dial going anywhere. So I think that not all of the meetings need to be 100%, what is it? They're calling it Zoom fatigue, where we're all staring at each other's faces, and it's important to kind of take breaks on things that are not exactly relevant to, a particular interest. And so, yeah, but it is a skill to build up. So, I mean, these things can be kind of, not exactly shiny, and attractive, but they're very important. We're talking about 50 years of line down. Yeah, sorry.
Okay. Other questions? Matt?
Did I understand right, Ariel? You said, well, first of all, nice to meet you. Did you say that you were considering or would like to be considered for the Affordable Housing Committee and the Development Review Board? And
Yes.
if so, what is your preference?
The Affordable Housing Committee.
Okay.
And the reason for the DRB board is because there is a need. And so I feel like I can definitely help out there too.
And last question, what are your thoughts on our inclusionary housing ordinance and inclusionary housing in general?
I think it should be citywide. And I think it's necessary going forward if we're going to have the kind of communities that we want to have in Burlington and South Burlington.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that comment.
Okay, Megan?
So can you tell me how your environmental focus overlaps with your affordable housing focus? How do you do that?
I'll tell you, like I moved to South Village, and I actually was emailing with Robin Jeffers because I wanted to use the Common Grounds compost pile for my table scraps. And then fortuitously, 6 months after that, it became law in South Burlington to actually have that. So I actually think that to me, it's a wonderful dream to have all of that included. When you're having a high concentration of people and then you have sustainable practices in place, that lessens the impact on the environment and on the surrounding wildlife.
And I'm talking specifically about breaking new ground versus redevelopment, patterns of development, mass transit access, all these kinds of questions.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm thinking that the transit will end up catching up with the developments. So at this point, if the focus is to say, okay, we need to build where there's currently mass transit, I see that South Village, for example, and Dorset Farms are not at all serviced by mass transit whatsoever. So if you're going to really build affordable housing, then you need to be able to have that family not have to purchase 2 cars. So my daughter is a student at UVM. That's actually how I arrived here in 2019. And there's no way for her to get to a bus. I mean, it's great that the buses have the bike racks, but the hills are prohibitive. And anyway, there's no sidewalk. So I actually think that the transit infrastructure will catch up to go to where the housing is, if only to have somebody driving a van back and forth to the nearest bus stop. So I mean, I think it's a work in progress.
Thank you.
Other questions, Tim or Tom?
Have you ever lived in affordable housing, Ariel? Is it Ariel or Ariel?
It's affordable housing. I'm not sure. I should have asked Robin Jeffers when she was on the. I think the unit where I live is currently marked for as affordable housing.
What do you appreciate about it?
Well, I face the woods, and I actually walk in the South Burlington woods, which to me is just a pearl beyond price. And I have my strip. So what I appreciate about these buildings is that they're very snug in the winter. They're very cool in the summer. And it's a nice community. There's a walkway, which actually has which is very pleasant to take. And I love the little organic farm in the middle. And I have my plot there where I grow my own plants every year. So I love it.
Okay.
And most
Other
importantly, it's
sorry.
right down the street from UVN.
So Ariel, do you have any questions for us?
Well, yeah. So, I mean, I don't want to put anybody on the spot, right? But my thought going forward that I'd like to help the committee with is to really find a way to do outreach to bring more, to make the committee more diverse. This is actually brought upon by the young lady who gave the talk about racism in South Burlington. And after that presentation, I started to look around. I mean, it's not news that Vermont is highly white, right? But as I'm looking around Vermont and I'm going to the post office, I'm going to the supermarket, I'm seeing the actual, and especially the schools, the South Burlington schools, there's a lot of diversity coming in and growing up, like little new shoots. And I'm just thinking how wonderful it would be to include some of the parents or some of these other more diverse people into these. And I feel like it's because they don't feel that they're specifically invited. I know that these open forums are very unique to Vermont. And most people, I think, from other cultures would assume that their opinions would not be valued. And so my question is kind of what are the plans for the committee going forward on that?
Well, I think you have hit or mentioned a challenging proposition. As we go out to the public, we advertise and say, here are the openings, and wait for people like yourself to fill out an application and apply. So I guess we could all do better at that and actually identify friends or acquaintances with diversity to encourage them to apply for our committees, because we certainly have a lot of committees and a lot of people.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a very good answer, but I think
some people just need a personal invitation. Some people just need to be approached person to person and say, listen, I think that South Burlington could really use you on a committee and would love to hear your feedback on some of the projects. And I think sometimes that might be all that it would take to have people start to participate. But I might be wrong. This is my theory.
Great. Well, I appreciate your interest in this community and your activity already. And thank you for applying. And you heard the process. It'll probably be June when we have our final meeting to make all the decisions. But in the meantime, all the committee meetings are open to the public. So you've already discovered that, and I hope you will continue.
Great. Thank you so much. I hope you all have a great day.
You too. Okay, now we are Mark Baer. Is Mark here? Right. Haven't been keeping track of who has arrived. I don't see Mark, so let's move on to Bob.
No, he's there.
It's right there.
Right in the middle. You didn't turn your picture on fast enough for me. Okay, so let me get you up on my screen.
You're like the Hollywood squares. I'm impressed that you knew where to point, Mark.
All right, so Mark, you've been on the development review committee and would like to continue. Is that right? Mark, are you speaking? Because we can't hear you.
He didn't have his earbud in. So Mark, can you hear us? We can't hear you, Mark.
Sometimes if you turn the speaker off and then turn it back on. Now try it. Now speak. No. We can't hear you. One of you techie guys, help him out. I'm not the right person.
Now we can hear you. Go ahead. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so tell us why you would like to be on the DRB board or DRB.
Pardon me, Helen?
Please tell us your interest in the DRB.
Well, you know, I've obviously been on the DRB now for 15 years. So I think at this point, I finally started to get the hang of it. Taken me about this long. And, you know, I think what I bring to the board is just that. It's sort of time working with all of the important members, and every part of the approval process is important, from city staff to the other board members, to the applicants, to the public, and to all the various committees that contribute to the board. It's interesting how it's sort of changed over the years. The committees have become a lot more important and a lot more involved. And staff has always been really, you know, top notch, providing all the staff comments and feedback to the board and working with the applicants before it even gets to us. Because, you know, at the end of the day, we are a development review board. We take the land development regulations that you guys approve and the planning commission draft, and we apply them to projects that come before us. And by the time they come to us, you know, most of the issues have been sort of worked out with staff based on the regulations that are active at the time. So I think it's something where I've kind of got the hang of that, whether that's good or bad. You know, recognizing that, you know, all projects have some inherent really good things and some inherent bad things. And you kind of have to take the emotion out of the picture in reviewing them. That by the time you get to the point where a project gets to a motion or a vote, you really have to review it based purely on the merits. You know, it's something I've said for many, many years when I was chair, vice chair, and just a board member, is there's projects that are going to come before the board that you love, but you're not going to be able to vote for. And there's going to be projects you really don't like that you're going to have to approve. And that's really what it comes down to. We're quasi-judicial, and our votes have to stand the test of an appeal. And our votes are really to just protect the interests of the city when it comes to the regulations that are before us.
Okay, as an architect, have you had to recuse yourself on
No, I
occasion?
don't do a lot of work locally. What most of my work that I do locally is just single family residential here and there. Most of my work is out of state.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah.
Other questions, people? Megan?
Yeah, Mark, could you give us, a story or two about where you've been able to nudge a project in a way that made it a project that you weren't so happy with, but had to approve to a project that you were fairly happy with and could approve, you know, with some heart behind it?
You know, I don't really recall specific projects, but I can tell you that one of, I guess, I don't want to say rewarding, because, you know, honestly, it's not crazy rewarding as being a member of the DRB, because you really are just applying the regulations. But I think if you wanted to use a rewarding experience, I guess it's the PUD process, you know, because it's really the area where, as a board member, you have the ability to nudge a project. You have the ability to sort of ask for something that's not specifically in the regulations, to give the developer some latitude and some flexibility. You know, if they want to push the envelope a little bit, well, we want something as a city that's going to benefit the community as a whole, that might give them a little more than they might not normally have gotten, but we as a city are going to get something out of it. And that's really what I see as, I guess I'd say the experience as being the longevity on the DRB, to know when you can kind of push the envelope there. You know, one thing I've learned over the years is it never hurts to ask. And you have to be able to say to when a developer says no, okay, that wasn't within our purview, so I'm gonna have to accept that. But normally they really do want to work with the city and work with the boards. And normally our comments and our requests aren't exorbitant, and it always is nudging the project in a direction that is beneficial to the city and the community.
And have you, I'm hoping, included in your own designs, you know, climate thoughtfully designed with climate change in mind, features or placement on a lot or other things?
Yeah, I mean, that certainly comes with a trade-off between purely designing for like the south facing roof lines, which, you know, we as a DRB don't have a lot of like, you know, requests. We can try to nudge, we can try to request. My own personal designs, you know, most of my design work that we always are trying to provide orientation or at least enough roof area that roof is prepped for future solar work. I'm not a net zero architect. You know, there's plenty of architects that sort of do focus on that and are very good at it. You know, I'm kind of more of a renovation, restoration, you know, single family architect. And, you know,
redevelopment's important for combating climate change.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think one thing that's interesting, especially when it comes to like the SEQ design guidelines, you know, and it's one thing that we as a DRB have learned over the years is there's a couple requirements and criteria in those. You know, we learned the hard way, the should and the shall, you know, where we actually had to have the city attorney weigh in and tell us that should is would love to see it, but you can't require it. And shall is yes, it has to happen, whether it affects the design or not, you shall do it. Is like the issue of the 35% windows oriented to the south. You know, because we've gotten feedback and comment from developers that do specialize in like energy efficiency, that 35% openings in the southern facing envelope is detrimental to energy efficiency because windows are not as energy efficient as wall surfaces. So it's like, you know, that's why it's a should, not a shall, because while it is nice to have that, you know, happen just from a sort of a quality of life standpoint, it's a contradiction in the energy efficiency standpoint. So that's kind of a balance where, you know, we work with developers and they say like, we're going to try to achieve it as best we can for the majority of it, but certain areas it's not going to happen and we can't sort of require it of them.
Okay, Tim? We can't hear you, Tim.
Now your microphone's not working.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good. So Mark and I were on the DRB together many years ago. I remember one project we worked on called Trader Joe's. No. So Mark has a really great aesthetic sense and also design sense, and then also a technical ability, which is just, it's indispensable for the DRB. I mean, he picked up right away on the fact that the Trader Joe's Pier 1 building didn't have a window where they said it should be. And they claimed they couldn't do it. He said, of course you can. Architecturally, we do it all the time. So he picked up on that like that, right? And there are a lot of other instances. And I can vouch for his design talent because there are several homes in South Burlington that have his touches. And those touches are, they're the types of things that make the difference between something being you know, just plain and something being really beautiful. So Megan, where you think that we need, and I agree that we need people with more aesthetic sense on the DRB, we get a double play here because Mark's got that and all the technical ability too. So I'm glad he's applying again.
Great. Well, that was quite an endorsement. Are there any other questions?
There was the question in there, Tim.
Yeah.
Have you attended any DRB meetings in the last?
Yes. Right.
Actually, with the advent of this Zoom technology, I certainly I couldn't attend for quite a while, and I kept telling Paul, like, Paul, I'm ready to step down. I can't, because I was traveling so much. But then the go-to meeting, and I started attending all the meetings virtually before the pandemic started. I would call in. And then once the Zoom, pandemic, I was like, hey, I'm actually a regular board member again.
Trendsetter.
I just have one question. Is there a set of skills that is missing on the DRB? That not necessarily, I mean, you apparently have lots, so we got aesthetics and some technical ability and the architectural view of the world covered with you, it sounds like. But is there something else that's missing that you think would enhance their ability to function?
The one thing I've always said about all the board members is, while it's nice that you sort of can bring sort of an expertise to the board, you never know when someone's going to pick up on something that no one else has thought of yet. And that doesn't always come from a specific skill set. It comes from, I always call it the light bulb, where suddenly someone says something just because they're listening, and everyone goes, oh, why haven't we thought of it? Which, as an architect, they might bring up something design-wise. I'm like, I should have caught that. I will say that, like the two new board members that have just joined recently, obviously clearly bring, DRB specific expertise. Stephanie, the civil engineer, and Dan, the land planner. So, and then, Elise and Dawn and Brian's a real estate, or an attorney. So I think it's a pretty good broad mix for it right now. I know in the past we've always had sort of like specific people for specific things, but quite honestly, we've actually had quite a bit of turnover in the past, say, 3 to 5 years on the DRB. It was a little scary when I think Brian made a comment either during deliberations where he said, I realize I'm the second longest tenured DRB board member, and I'm only here for 3 years or something like that. And I've been on it for 15, I'm like, oh boy, maybe it is time for fresh blood and I should take a pass, but I was jokingly say I serve at the pleasure of the city council. As long as you guys want me to help out, I'm happy to help out.
Okay. Well, thank you. Well, I appreciate your longevity. That's a lot of work and a lot of time. I'm glad that the pandemic had a good impact on your ability to participate.
It's not the only good impact on it, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's one in a row for the pandemic. Good enough. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Yep. Thank you very much. Good night. And it seems like you guys have a much longer meeting. Our meetings
we're having a long meeting.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Thank you, Mark. Good night. Bob, Britt, you're up next. Gang, we're not quite halfway through these, so.
Oh, we're chatting maybe a little bit.
Yeah. So Bob,
We're enjoying seeing everybody.
why shouldn't we appoint you, reappoint you?
What have you done wrong?
I'd love to serve again, so we can leave it at that, if you're okay with that.
That's good enough for me.
That is good enough for me. I think you've served a long, how many years have you served? Did you tell us?
September of 2015.
Yeah, so that's good. So you really know how things work, so that's helpful.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I've
Okay.
always appreciated your view of the world, so thank you for your service.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay. Denise Townsend. And Denise is interested in the Public Art Committee. Here we go.
Oh, shoot, my camera looks like it's turned around and I don't know why.
It's very arty though.
Power cord in the back of the
So,
monitor.
looks like you have talent, Denise.
It's
Or
art.
good,
It is art.
yes, it's art. Yeah, yeah.
I don't
Can you
know.
tap your screen? Can you tap your screen and do you see the arrows like in a circle that would flip it?
I don't see anything that would
Do you have a
indicate.
laptop, an iPad, or a phone, or what?
I'm on a laptop, yes.
Okay. Is,
Um,
That's really strange. I only have the camera facing one way on my laptop. You have, that's
Yeah, me
really,
too.
Yeah.
well, you have a fancy laptop.
I can try to turn, but I don't know.
You could turn your laptop around. You wouldn't be able to see us, but we'd be able to see you.
This is gonna be awkward, I feel like. Can you see me?
Almost,
you-
lift up. Well, lift it up. Up, up,
You're-
up, 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 up.
A little tiny. Yeah, that's too much. Down a little bit.
You must have a camera on the outside of your laptop and it's like a phone,
yeah.
right?
It's probably an espionage laptop. Well,
Does that
anyway,
even work?
Yes, we see you. We see you, Denise. I'm sorry you can't see us anymore.
I'm sorry.
People see too much of us. I think they'd rather see you.
all right. Well, it looks like you're certainly interested. Why don't you quickly tell us why you would like to? You've participated in a number of things on theater and dance arts at UVM. So what pushes you to apply for this job?
No, I don't participate in any arts at UVM. The UVM part is more my full-time job, and I've taken some certificate work and also a couple of courses in the public administration master's program. So my arts background is in the dance field. When I arrived in Vermont in 2014, I became part of the Bryce Dance Company, but she relocated to New York City. So I've been part of the Vermont Dance Alliance and also volunteered at Art Hop. I most recently lived in Burlington. So I was right in the heart of Burlington. So I was close to the Art Hop scene. So now living in South Burlington, I would like to be part of an art community here. So it seemed like this would be a great committee to be part of.
I think it's a nice committee, Denise. Yes. Yeah. My husband's on it, so
Okay.
he enjoys it.
Yeah.
Building buildings, so we use it. There's some projects.
Yeah, I'm not from Vermont, but I always remember as a kid just seeing pieces of art around, and I know that they stay with me, are stuck with me, and so I feel like as I put on my application, I think that art is an act of resilience, and I think that we need more or pieces of art that represent that for the community, so that and art that everyone can see themselves in, and to be more welcoming and inclusive.
Great. Any other questions people have? Sounds like you're bringing a good vision of what you might have to address and why, how important it is to the public. This isn't just a painting to go on a wall in your living room.
Yes, I absolutely agree. I personally have been working on the concept of dialectical thinking, being able to hold, two opposing thoughts at once, but still come to a wise decision or conclusion. And so I feel like art can be a way to explore ideas and thoughts, and it gives people the opportunity to think about their thinking, and then hopefully when they act, it's based on a wise mind.
Beautifully said.
Well, that sounds like a good use for public art. Any thoughts or questions? I don't know how often the art committee meets.
Once
I
a
don't
month.
think
It's
once a
or it's
month.
on demand, or it's on demand. I think it's more when there's something in the hopper. I'm not sure, and He's somewhere else, the member that I live with. But
Okay.
it can depend. It can depend on what, you know, what funds are available, where they are in the project, you know, getting a commission out, you know, the request, and then collecting those and reviewing those. And then there's just kind of a fallow period, right? Because they've used their funds and then it starts up again. Right?
Understood. Yeah, my background is in the restaurant and retail industry, managing those environments, and my work at UVM and higher ed is new to me. And the public administration master's was also new, and it led me to thinking about bureaucracy, which led me to thinking about being involved in the community, to make sure that voices are being elevated, that are not being heard.
I'm with you, Denise. I'm a UVM employee.
I feel like I've recognized you.
Yes. Okay. Well, the process will take the next month, and we'll let you know in June, one way or the other. I appreciate your interest. Are there one last question you might want to ask us, or?
No, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to apply, and sorry for the camera.
That's okay. It's an interesting conundrum to have a camera looking out. So be good on a bus, maybe. So thank you very much, and we appreciate your interest. So
Thank
good
you.
night.
Have a good night.
You too.
Ray Gonda, he is an incumbent. Where's Ray? On the Natural Resources Committee. There we go. Hi, Ray.
Good evening.
And
This
so-
isn't a hearing, so I don't have to swear.
No,
do
you
I?
don't have to swear in, but you do need to tell the truth.
Oh, I don't know if I can do that. Gosh.
All righty. So tell us, you know, why you want to continue on Natural Resources and
Okay,
Conservation.
that's great. This gives me a chance to advertise myself. That's a joke. When I joined this committee, about 2 years ago, I guess. For some reason, it just seemed to be so slow that there wasn't real direction to it. And then after that, we lost membership and we became a non-committee. And then again, later we became a committee. So it was kind of like a fresh new start. And I was elected chair. I had no intention of being chair, but I got elected chair, probably because I'd been on the committee a little longer than most of the other people. So I was kind of put in a position of, well, what do you do with this committee? What should this committee be doing? One of our major goals was to assist the DRB on environmental concerns. Specifically, is a project adhering to the LDRs? Well, that was kind of a difficult thing, and we spent a lot of time looking at the old LDRs and considering if we could add to whatever the Planning Commission was doing. And essentially, all of that effort came to naught once the committee became defunct. But since then, the Planning Commission has done a lot more work. They now have a proposal out there, a concrete proposal. And whatever those LDRs turn out to be, that's what we're going to have to be dealing with on the Natural Resources Committee. So what I've been trying to do as a committee chair, and I've been spending more time on this than I think I originally wanted to when I joined the committee, but nonetheless, I am trying to give substance and direction to the committee so that this committee has a goal, has a direction, has a reason for being. If you look at our work plan, you'll see a whole bunch of different priorities on it, up and down. And it's kind of like a mishmash of things. But how do you get a committee to work together and have that committee get some momentum and move forward and have the committee members feel like they're involved and really participate? And that worked. Starting back before the committee had its problems, we had a work group and we created a document that we gave to the planning and zoning that was called Natural Resource Early Considerations. And it was just a list of the kinds of things that a developer could expect us to be looking at and evaluating on any project. We employed that document several months ago over the Christmas time on the East View project, the O'Brien East View project. And we actually, I felt we did a really good job, and the committee worked together like a team, 9 people like a team, people who didn't know each other, worked together as a team. So I felt good about that because we were getting momentum, we were getting direction. Now, there are a number of other things that relate to our ability to do that. One of them is, and if you've seen any of our reviews, we've done 2 reviews so far, you'll see wildlife corridors is one of those things. Wildlife corridors have not been fully mapped by the Planning Commission. And I know there are wildlife corridors out there, having been an outdoorsman much of my life. There are wildlife corridors out there that do not show up on any map. So one of the things that we're discussing doing is doing that mapping. And why would we do that mapping now? Why don't we just do it project by project? Well, it's because, take for example, the Long property. There's a wildlife corridor there, an identified wildlife corridor. And if we say to the developer there that, well, we'd like to see you maintain that corridor, I would fully expect if I were a developer, I would come back and say, well, what's your overall plan? Why are you telling us to have a wildlife corridor when you've got this whole area to the south that's still open? So what that speaks to is we need to do the mapping and have some sort of plan in place as we continue to go through and review projects.
So in short, if you continue on the committee, you would like to really push for and get some mapping done and be able to have that as a tool.
Yes, that's true. That will be on our agenda. We're going to make a decision whether to do it or not. And the consideration is, do we do it project by project, or do we try to do it as a single project and then use it when we evaluate the various housing developments come up? I'm going to let the committee make that decision. I'll make the case that we should do it, but the committee's going to make that decision.
Okay. Does the council have any questions? We have a little bit of a time frame, so and you are an incumbent, so you probably don't. Matt? We can't hear you, Matt.
Mr. Gonda, you said in your comments that the Natural Resources Committee disbanded or went away for a time being. In your opinion, what was the reason for that?
Probably due to myself. I was an advocate, and there were some people on the committee that were not advocates, and I think it created some sparks.
I don't understand.
Well, boy, this is something I really didn't want to talk about, okay? But I'll just speak it lightly. We had a committee chair at the time who just hard to explain this. Would not let our working group get down to business and do business. That person was too concerned about form, about authoritarian structure. I can't really explain this in this meeting. It's just going to take too long, and I feel very uncomfortable doing it. But that is a good question, and I think it's appropriate that you ask it. Let's just call it personality differences. That led to some sparks within our committee. And I think there was one person who didn't like that. So that person left the committee. There was another person who left the committee before all this happened. So that was 2 down. And then the third person left the committee after we completed the early Natural Resources Committee document. That was basically, he did the basic work on that document. And when he was done, he left. So what I'm saying is there were a combination of reasons as to why the committee went defunct. Does that help, Matt?
Okay, other question. Oh, are you done, Matt?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Gunn.
Okay. Megan.
Ray's talked a lot about what they're working on currently. Can you tell us a little bit about the dynamic of the committee now?
I think it's pretty good. There are 2 exceptions. One is a member who doesn't believe global warming is real, and the other is not attending meetings. But currently that's for health issues. So essentially we're down 2 people. Otherwise, we're working.
The one person who doesn't believe in climate change doesn't attend the meetings?
Well, he hasn't attended the last meeting, and he hasn't joined, except for the original project we did on Eastview. He reviewed what the whole document was and gave input on it. He did that much, but he has not participated since then.
So how many people are left that actually do anything?
There's 7 of us.
It's a big committee.
Yeah, it's big enough. As I said, one of the members has got health issues, and he hasn't attended the last 2 or 3 meetings. Well, he attended the first meeting, and I think that was it.
And you have 4 openings, 1 being you because you're an incumbent, and 3 others. Okay.
Well, they haven't resigned, so I can't say anything about that. But by the way,
well, their term might be up. That's what I mean. There's
yeah, I don't know if they are or
terms.
not.
Yeah. Okay. Other questions? All right. Well, thank you for reapplying and working hard to pull the committee together. I was aware of some of the issues. It was a challenging time, for sure.
I too was
So,
aware.
thank you, Ray.
Thank you.
Bill Wargo. Hello, Bill. It's been a long, many years of knowing you.
How are you, Helen?
So you're interested in the Natural Resources Committee as well.
Right.
And have you attended any of the meetings?
I have not, but I plan to.
Okay. And you're retired now, so you have lots of time.
Well, I'm retired, but I'm gradually getting into other kinds of things. I'm still working with Jan Carney at the medical school and developing a course, and I am doing some guardian ad litem work and
good for you.
a couple of other things couple of other irons in the fire. But yeah, so I'm keeping busy.
Great. So you want to, I mean, I know a lot about you and how you work with people very well. Why don't you share some of that with the council?
Sure. Well, I think the main reason, as I indicated in my application, was for my wanting to get on this particular committee is because I've had a lot of experience working with the city of Winooski for 10 years and with the health department for a much longer period of time than that on issues related to natural resources and the environment. And I could go into specifics about that, but there may be other people waiting in line to present their cases about getting on various boards and everything. So I'll just say that in carrying out those particular positions and jobs, I found that I'd be very interested in getting another job where I could focus on, or another position where I could focus on the natural environment and natural resources. And it seemed as though this particular committee was the way to do that. Since we moved to South Burlington and since my retirement, I've been involved in working at the South Burlington Public Library and starting up a cookbook club, which is another thing I'm doing. And that's been immensely successful. And we've been doing that for about 3 years, but it seemed as though it was a good idea to get into something that was much more related to the kinds of jobs that I had in the past. And the Natural Resources and Conservation Committee seemed to fill that bill. And it sounded, from what Ray Gonda said just a couple of minutes ago, it sounded as though he was trying to kind of steer the committee toward more specific kinds of projects and things to do. And I'd like to work with him in doing that. I've never met him, but he sounded like a very, a guy who would follow through on the kinds of things that he wanted to do.
Okay.
Yes. I have a question for Bill.
Sure.
Hi, Megan.
Hi. What are your views on the science of climate change? I guess we have to ask that question.
I am a believer in climate change, and I will try to do my best to try to convince that person, if it ever comes to it, who's on the committee, why climate change is real and something has to be done about it.
Okay.
I also believe in solar power and a lot of other good things too. So.
Are you a friend of bees? And all the pollinators that we need. Ray is very much into bees and pollinators.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Any other questions? Well, I think it would be interesting to have and helpful, this sort of health worldview and how important the environment is to our health and natural resources to our health and how we really need to protect them. So
thank you. Yeah, I'm excited about getting involved.
Yeah, you have a lot of expertise on that for sure.
Thank you.
So I appreciate you applying, and thank you. And we'll let you know in June.
June. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
Helen. Thanks everybody else too.
So don't hold your breath. It's a whole month.
Hopefully we'll be a lot freer in June.
I've held my breath for the last year with COVID, so
Yeah, that's true. Absolutely, haven't we all? Okay, thanks a lot, Bill.
Thank
Good
you
night.
very much. Bye.
Okay. Now we're going to hear from Denise Piezinski-Hersey. Did I pronounce that right?
You did. I'm very impressed. And I don't even usually use the Piezinski part, so.
Well, I figured since you put it down, I needed to use it.
I don't remember putting it down, but I'm glad I did.
Okay. So Denise, you're interested in the Library Board of Trustees.
Yes.
So tell us why. You want to have a lot of work before them, so.
Sure. And I know it's getting late. So I am a librarian. I'm actually new to South Burlington in Vermont. I moved here in August. I come from the academic librarianship profession. So I'm actually the new director of the Dana Medical Library at UVM. And I have we've always wanted to live in Vermont, my husband and I. So we're excited to be here, and we intend to be here for many, many years. And I really appreciate being involved in my community and supporting my community. So I did see the ad for the board, and my son is in college now, so I have the time and capabilities to really devote myself to something that I believe in. And I think, many of us can say we are big proponents of public libraries and what they do. So I feel like I bring some expertise in understanding interlibrary loan, library budgets, how to license resources with vendors. So I'd like to bring that experience to support the South Burlington Public Library.
Great. Questions? Have you been to any of the meetings?
No, I see that they're once a month on Thursdays at 6. So
Great.
I do have a card. I did get a library card, although it's kind of virtual right now. I haven't been able to pick it up, but I can use it.
Right. Yeah. Well, there'll be a lot going on and going forward with the library. Sort of the
Right,
world
I
is
heard.
your oyster.
Yes, and I did hear earlier about the schedule for the new building. So
Questions, anyone?
Denise, do you live
Alright,
across
so-
the street from me?
could be. What number are you? Or what,
162. I think you're across the street.
179 Royal?
You live on the cider mill, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you live across the street from me.
Well, how
I
nice.
just
Okay,
realized
if I
that.
look at my window, if I look at my window, do I see you?
Yeah. Well, no, I'm on the back side of it.
Oh, okay.
People move in, and then I go, wait, I know her.
You didn't bring over cookies or anything? Tim. Well, now you have an excuse. Okay.
Well, welcome to Vermont, Denise. Thanks for
Oh,
coming.
thanks. Oh,
Yeah.
no, and thanks for coming. We've always wanted to come, so I'm so happy we had the opportunity.
Where did you come from?
All right, well, I'm going to tell you, I came from New Jersey, but I was only there for a couple of years working at Princeton.
I grew
I
up in New
Which
Jersey. It's okay. I
Okay.
understand.
I'm from
Say
Eastern.
which exit?
Yeah.
Which
I'm
exit?
from, the Princeton area.
I'm just kidding.
Oh, well, that's
yeah.
a nice part of New Jersey. Yeah.
It is, it's gorgeous. And prior to that, I was in Connecticut for 25 years, so.
Yeah.
Denise, what is the Dana Library you said, is it Larner or is it UVM?
It's the medical library at UVM.
Okay.
So we serve the Lerner College of Medicine in addition to the medical center and the College of Nursing and Health Sciences.
It's called the Dana, D-A-N-A?
Yes, and there's also one at Dermot. The medical library there is Dana as well. So.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much for applying. It sounds like you know your way around the library. And I'm hoping you have a whole lot of new good ideas and want to help us with our new one. So we'll
Great.
let
Thank
you
you
know
for
in
the
June.
opportunity. All
Do you
right.
have
Have
any
a good evening.
questions for us or?
Not yet. I've been exploring the website and I saw that there's a site for the trustees. So
I do have a question, if that's all right, Helen.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Denise, have you always been in a university library or have you ever been in a public library?
I have not worked in a public library, so I'm just a library user. So I've always been in academic libraries and one corporate library.
Oh, in a corporate library. Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah.
A nonprofit, so.
Cool. All righty. Well, thank you very much, Denise.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too. And welcome to Vermont. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
this is-
libraries are wonderful places. They're very good.
This
UVM
is-
librarians, they're creme de la creme.
All right, the next one is Donna Schwartz. Woot?
Yes, that was close. It's Donna Swarta.
Swarta. Oh, okay.
The second W is not said.
Uh-huh, okay. I thought maybe the T wasn't said.
Good
I
German
figured
name.
one of them was silent and I guess the wrong one. But anyway, so let me find you, Donna. Okay, and Donna, you're interested in the library as well.
Heard Denise, I do not have library experience. I'm a public user, but I have over 35 years in higher education, and I'm getting ready to retire in May. Like many of the people I've been listening to, I'm very interested in serving back into the community. I moved to South Burlington in 2015 to take care of aging parents. And so actually, when my parents were living here and we would come to visit, we always talked about retiring here. So I feel like we came to help them, and we also got the benefit. I have worked at all 3 schools in Burlington. So St. Mike's, I started out my career there, UVM, and I'm currently working at Champlain. I was working at Merrimack College, where I helped design the new library there. So some of the renovation pieces and looking at the new plans for the library really excite me. Have done fundraising before, and consider myself a really good team player and collaborator, and view this as an opportunity to give back and also to gain something for myself, getting involved in my local community.
Great. Okay.
I
Have you
heard
been
not
to any
afraid of
of these-
fundraising. That's a really good
Yeah.
skill to have.
Yep. I worked at Big Brothers Big Sisters for a couple of years and did the fundraising, grant writing. I'm comfortable with the public speaking and telling the story, and really believe that a library is the community, like the living room of our community here in South Burlington. So it's an opportunity to make sure that we have good access, looking at inclusion, and really just making it a place where people want to be. And so that would be something that I would really be curious to learn how we could do that for everyone.
Well, I like your comment that you love to tell a good story that supports a mission, because that's really important, especially with
Library does.
fundraising.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you have any questions for us?
I don't. I really appreciate that you have put this in for an entire evening. So with a lot of gratitude. Yeah. Long night for y'all.
Alrighty. Okay. Well, thank you again for moving here and for applying for this. We appreciate
Thank you.
all we have so many volunteers, and they're so wonderful. They really make the city what it is. So
They do.
thank you.
I helped out with voting during the pandemic and really got to do some things that way, and actually helped the library move from its old place to the mall.
Great.
So yeah. So looking forward to help moving it back.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Thank you, Donna, for both of those
Yeah.
major tasks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Taking care.
All right. Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Good night.
Evening.
Night.
Okay, last but not least, Ted Lenski wants to continue. You're an incumbent, yeah.
Yes, I am.
Hi there. So I'm glad you want to stick around.
Yes, we moved here in 2019 and the board was kind enough to ask me to serve on the library board. I've been serving as the treasurer of the library board. Work closely with Jennifer and the team on the board. We're excited about the new library. Excited to work with Jennifer as part of the treasurer and the finance committee to develop our staffing plan to try and make sure we have the library available for the hours to support the community, to develop its people, and to be the resource for the community. Want to continue being a part of my role into the community, and would enjoy serving on the library board again.
Okay, well, you get good marks from your chair,
Thank you.
Patrick. Yeah, wrote me an email. Do you have any question? I don't know if anyone has any questions for Ted. I'm tickled that you want to continue. Do you have any questions for us?
I don't. I've enjoyed my role, enjoy working with Patrick and Jennifer, and would be honored to serve again.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll make our decision in June, as I've said. All righty.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for hanging in there. Apologize for running late.
No problem at all. Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too. Okay, well, we are running kind of late. Okay, let's move on to item 9, which is consider and possibly approve the local emergency operation plan. Terry Francis.
I move that we accept the plan.
Yeah, I would second
Second.
that.
Second.
Terry, is Terry, oh,
After
there
a
you go.
complete reading, though.
Right. Hey,
By the
Thank
chief.
you. I apologize, running late, but
Who's Janet
Yes.
Francis?
Wife.
Oh, you're
we can't
muted.
hear you. You don't look like it, Janet. You really don't.
Yeah, that's good. She's much better looking than I am and a lot smarter.
So you need us to approve the local emergency operations plan.
Yep, we managed to skip it last year because of COVID.
But
During
you
an
got
emergency.
all the right phone numbers, and it's all up to date. I took the little management course
Right. Yep.
3 years ago. Maybe it was really fascinating.
Yep, and hopefully we can get the folks that haven't had that yet back into that program. I think it's really good for people to know that the local emergency action plan fits in, dovetails very nicely with the states, and we can all pull the oars together and get work done. And we've certainly done
Absolutely.
that over the last year.
Any major
Okay.
changes?
No.
Let's move it. I move that we approve the local emergency operations plan.
In a second? Okay. All in favor, thumbs up?
Aye.
Thank you, Chief.
Aye. Thank you very much. I'm sorry you had to hang in so late for this.
That's all right. I get a chance to meet some of my community people that I wouldn't meet otherwise.
Good. Okay. Well,
Good
thank
night.
you for all that you do. Okay, Charlie. You again.
I could tell, yeah. So I know we sent you some information and a presentation in your packet. I'm happy to open that up and review it. If you looked at it, you saw that there were a couple questions. We're really just asking for a recommendation from the city council about what to do with interchanges at this point. I don't know if someone, I'm happy, well, Madam Chair, if you'd like me to do a little bit of the presentation, I'm happy to do that, but I know we've already spent quite a bit of time with you on this topic and it's getting late. So.
Yeah, it is. But I think it was important and helpful to read all the comments from various committees. They didn't all land exactly in the same spot, but it seemed as if the vast majority, for whatever reasons, or for many reasons, liked the Point Diamond interchange.
Couple committees weighed in on that topic, and we didn't hear from a couple other committees as well. So I don't know.
Who didn't get back with you?
I think the one I was surprised not to hear from was the Economic Development Committee.
Well, we got something.
Oh, okay, good. Like I said, you may have heard some feedback that we didn't get, so which is
Yeah,
fine.
did everyone get to read that? I think it came in an email that
Okay.
Kevin forwarded us. And
Yeah, it's in the packet.
they sort
Charlie,
of
we
wanted
sent-
everything.
We sent that directly to the council, the economic development. It came in on Friday. We sent it directly to the council so they'd have that tonight.
Right.
Yeah, they wanted 13 and 12B. They really wanted to nail home the business community, keep them happy. So what do you need from us? I mean,
If to whatever extent you'd like to give a recommendation to the process, that would be great. But completely up to you. From either taking action or not taking action, we're flexible.
well, for all that stuff, it seemed to me that 13 came in a little ahead.
I would agree. Yes.
And so if we're gonna support something, I guess I would suggest that it's,
Well, Helen, I would support 12B. I think it's important for the future of our economy, not only in South Burlington, but Vermont, that we develop that infrastructure. And I would not want Charlie and his crew to stop thinking about ways that we can incorporate a new exit and the ways that South Burlington can work with that possibility to improve our economy.
Well, all of them create a new exit, right?
Yeah. And I would say that given the desire to have more housing, particularly in that area, I would rather not have an exit there. I would much rather see that be a place for residential housing near those employment centers in an area where we already have the transit route starting, just inching south on Heinsberg Road. And I don't see the compatibility there. I am concerned about what kind of development. I'm torn, but I think given the need for housing, I'm going to opt for the housing as opposed to having that traffic infrastructure.
I think we can have both. I think we can have it all, and 12B makes it possible.
I'm not so sure. Living close to a highway is not necessarily desirable, and when you have exits with truck brakes and all the rest, I don't see that as possible.
Well, I'll weigh in. So the highway is going to be there no matter what. I just see 12B in a similar light to the economic development letter. And I'm sorry you didn't see that, Charlie, but it really spells out the arguments that I've heard since I first joined council. I remember when I first started thinking about running, I met with people like John Dinklage, and he was talking about how 12B's been on the books for decades. And I remember him also talking about the importance of it fitting our land use zoning for that area, the 2 tech parks right there. So that's why I just see that 12B, it does fit, since on both sides of it is not currently residential housing. It's currently zoned for industrial use, and it's also got the airport off to a stretch. So I wasn't quite following your comments there, Megan, about
I'd like to have a change in the zoning. I'm in it for the long haul to have that be a mixed use residential commercial area.
the tech parks. Okay.
Yes.
You want to rezone the tech parks for residential housing.
What does that
Mixed-
have to do with the
mixed use.
interstate interchange then?
Because I think that when you have roads with biking and pedestrian and all of this needed infrastructure for this new residential and business center, I think that an interchange in the middle of that is just, it's not sound design.
Well, currently we don't have an interchange between. We don't have a full interchange between exit 12 and exit 14. Exit 13 is this kind of like hybrid thing that wasn't fully conceived, I think, when it was planned. I would love to see exit 13 have at least the full north-south compatibility that 14 and 12 have. But right now, 12 doesn't have anything. And people that live in
12 exists.
people that live in the south, in Heinsberg and in Butler Farms, Oak Creek, the Rye property, and eventually the Hill property, and all the businesses in the tech park, right? They have to take 116 north to get to Kennedy Drive to go one direction or the other, either exit 12 or exit 14, right, to get back to the interstate. That concentration of business and housing that it has expanded out from that intersection of 116 and 89 is the perfect place to put an interchange in to get that traffic off of Kennedy Drive, get it off of 116, and let it flow where it wants to go. And I know that there will be some sacrifice of some of that land for the interchange roads themselves, but any argument in my mind that says that, oh, you're just going to create more traffic, it's like you've already got an interstate right underneath 116. And it goes right over the top of it. What better place to connect up with the interstate system than where you have that connection right now?
You're gonna have much more, like gas station, convenience store, big box store, as opposed to what I
don't think you have zoning for big box stores there right now.
No, but
I don't think
just
that's
looking.
what.
I've seen interchanges throughout my life, and that's not where you want to settle down with your family and go for a bike ride.
I think you already have people settled down in Butler Farms, Oak Creek, Highland Terrace, all those houses up in there. Cider Mill 2 is going to be a huge feeder for that road, and those people are not going to want to have to go to exit 12 or exit 14 to get on the interstate. You have people commuting up from Heinsberg, on 116. I mean, I'd love to see exit 13 completed, but you can argue for the fact that exit 13 is like almost all the way there. If you had to, you can go down to Shelburne Road, take a left, and get, or take a left, take a right, and get back on the interstate and head back, in the other direction. It's not optimum, but the one type of change that could be made that would facilitate more growth in that area would be 12B.
So
Wait, Tim, have you ever
all
gone
the
through?
neighborhoods already there.
Have you ever gone through, is it St. George? And then gotten on the interstate at exit 12? That's perfectly possible. That's where we've gone several times when we're in that area. I think it's important for us to hear from the Planning Commission, who unanimously supported exit 13. And we should ask them why, especially when we're looking at all these new land development regulations coming forward with the PUDs and looking at where that housing should go. There's clearly a reason why they unanimously recommended exit 13. And I think we should hear from them, because I think that there are ways to get to exit 13. So if we, exit 12B, I'm the one who recommended putting that exit where it is. But when I look at our housing needs, and I see that we're going to be taking cars off of exit 13 and putting them in 12B in the middle of a place that I'd love to have families move into, that just makes no sense from that perspective. And I
still don't understand what housing is going to be displaced by exit 12B, Megan. Exactly what housing is displaced?
Well, you're going to have many more cars. You're going to have much more exhaust because you have cars stopping at lights.
Where does that displace housing? That's what I've got to know. What land is being taken that's going to eat away at housing?
I would like to see housing just near Meadowland Drive, Tilly Drive.
That's in Meadowland. That's not where the interchange is about the interstate with 116. What land will be taken away from housing at 116 and in 89?
I'm saying, I'm not a young parent anymore, but I have a 10-year-old. I would not want my daughter going out on 116 knowing that there is a highway interchange there. Whereas if we can do real infrastructure with pedestrian and bike lanes, maybe when
Charlie's plan has a plan for pedestrian and biking access that's better than today, because right now there's a tiny little strip because I bike on that road.
Yes, but I could travel to UVM by bike. You know what? I did it once because of those interchanges. That is not a place where, if we want to have young families with children, that we should have interchanges, because you're just not, you're not making something that is going to be family friendly.
Okay, I think Tom wanted to make a comment.
I just really appreciate Councilor Barrett's comments, and I'm very much of the same mind. And I was going to say, in my strong support of 12B, and I think 13 is also makes sense too, but I'm very sold on many of the pluses of 12B, and I would want two additional aspects to be added as things go forward. Is one would be an amenity-oriented park and ride, really to address some of the concerns that I heard Councilor Emery raise. I would love to see any new interchange there take advantage of an opportunity to design a park and ride like what we have in Richmond, but with the thoughts in mind to really get people out of their cars, to really address the climate change concerns we have, and to foster public transportation. I think that's a possibility. And the other thing is, I have to watch out for that. We all want to watch out for the South Burlington taxpayer, and I'd love to further explore any transportation TIF, transportation infrastructure, or you all understand TIFs. I don't need to go into that, but ways to have the any growth that does occur in that area, similar to how we have the downtown TIF, pay for any local city burden. So those are things that I want to be part of a conversation about 12B going forward. But I fully support that interchange, as well as 13. I think all the commissions, including the Planning Commission, made sense for looking at for exit 13. But 12B makes a lot of sense for all the reasons already offered.
I just find 12B going into Tilly Drive, where all those medical buildings are, just very odd. Yeah,
you won't get housing there, that's for sure. It will change the development pattern that I see for that area. Yeah.
You're not going to get housing where the buildings are on Tilly Drive anyway. That's all zoned for professional.
We can change zoning, Tim. We're in the process.
But that is a huge UVM medical facility, and it's all owned by them right now.
Yes, but wouldn't it be wonderful if you had people who could walk to their, get their their appointments just down the road? I mean, I can do that for my dental right now. I could
How
do it
about the
for,
O'Brien Hillside property is going to be filled with people that could
Yes.
that could technically walk over there if they wanted to. Right? And
if you have an
also
interchange.
undeveloped land. There's undeveloped land to the northwest of that property, which could have housing someday.
Yeah, but the interchange to walk from there to the across an interchange, you're going to have wide. You've seen the
You
interchange.
can't walk across that thing
except
today,
for
Megan, because there's no crossing, there's no crosswalks, there's no crossing and lights. At least if you have controlled signalization, you can have people safely cross a highway when cars are stopped.
Who wants to live when you have to cross on highway to get to someplace? I'm sorry, this is just so anti, quality of life, and I just if we could have both ways, I would go for it. But I see that there's a real conflict here, and it's conflicting with, I would say, our housing goals.
So to redirect, Charlie wants us to give some guidance. Is that correct on where now? Are you asking for a formal motion? Because I'm prepared to make that motion if you'd like that, or if you're just looking for the sense of the council, Charlie.
As formal as you want to make it is better from my standpoint, because then it's something we can clearly communicate.
We have a planning commission member here. I wanted to hear from the planning commission too.
I also want to mention one other, just to keep in mind that this is a planning study, and that this is not a finality in either direction. So I just, want you to know that, like, it's going to go through quite a bit of process after this, right? With V-Trans.
Environmental stewardship, just.
Yep, and that would include the NEPA process and environmental impact statement. So there is a process after this, and I just want to be clear about that this is not a final position. If anybody was having that kind of anxiety. So.
Well, I do think by the time this gets built, even the business models that I think Matt is thinking about may not even be viable. Who knows? Just to make it all about servicing a couple businesses, I think that's really hard to predict accurately. So we may have this, and I guess I question, I can't remember who it was, said that there was so much traffic on Kennedy Drive. Kennedy Drive is practically empty. We built this huge 4-lane thing that hardly gets used. I mean, why don't we want that to be a place to get to the airport or Shelburne Road or Williston Road? It just seems like
City center.
Let's pave over the county, crying out loud.
It's very pro-car 12B. I agree.
I would argue it's really just pro-efficient transportation and movement of goods, services, and people, just to give people faster, reduce commute times, so thus less fuel.
Anti-environment. Hey, look at your chart. It's anti-environment. It's right there.
I also think it would foster regional density. So I think if you look outside of just South Burlington, I think it'll draw the growth, but smart growth, intelligent growth that we can design around already well designed.
No one will want to live there. No.
Megan, don't keep interrupting, please.
Sorry.
I'm hearing Westford is talking about sewer infrastructure. I'm not necessarily for or against what Westford's thinking about, but what I'm saying is Westford is at the furthest corner of Chittenden County. So as we look at the entire region, I see this as the type of smart growth to reduce commute times, give faster access to goods, services, employment centers. So I think it's the right type of thing to plan for in the future. But I would also go to what Charlie said, which is this decision is not making 12B happen. This is a long process that is with the way Vermont works and the Champlain Parkway and the Circumferential Highway. Nothing is going to happen or be decided tonight. It's just a long process.
Yeah, there are no construction trucks that are happening now. I think what Charlie's asking for is the sense of the board, and I think I have the sense that the board wishes CCRPC to continue to study 12B as a viable option in South Burlington for the future. And if the CCRP may say, no, it's not viable, we can't do it, and the money may not be there, and that's fine, but we don't want you to stop looking at it. I don't want you to stop looking at it, and I would make a motion that says to continue to investigate 12B as a viable option for our city.
Our Economic Development Committee said you should do both.
I would
So
love
why
both
don't we
of-
keep both of them active discussion? Or can you do that, Charlie? Look at both of them as a combo, or are you looking just for one?
You know, I think we're trying to, doing both is really a compounding thing, because we're doing one of these with new improvements at exit 14. To add the third interchange improvement kind of doubles or triples the work, because that's, you know, 3 combinations instead of 1. So I'm not saying we couldn't, but it would probably cost some more to take a look at that in addition. I'm happy, if that's where you end up, I'm happy to explore, you know, how to do that. And it may stretch out the time a little bit too. I don't want to speak for the consultant team without talking to them first, but so it does make it a little bit more challenging, just from a study aspect.
I don't know how to take back, Charlie, but if that's a motion that you're looking for a second, Matt, I'm supportive of it. I don't see 13 as something to shut the door on either. I think both of them, the case has been made, and I wish money, if there was an infinite amount of money, I'd want to do both. So I'm of that opinion too.
We have a motion. I think we need some, and seconded, further discussion. Michael, did you want to chime in for the Planning Commission, and then?
Yeah. Yes. Well, you've already received the Planning Commission's views that, and I get back to Charlie. Charlie wants you to choose one, right? That's the mission we were given at our.
That would be easiest from our view, yes.
Pick one. And the Planning Commission and several other committees chose exit 13 to make it a full single diamond interchange, because it would give you direct access to the airport. It would give quick access and a benefit for city center, which is the commercial, we hope the commercial center of South Burlington. It uses up a huge amount of land, acres and acres of land, and nobody is asking me how they would avoid destroying a major wetland between the southern and northern buildings of Eagle. A lot of that land belongs to Pitsagar. Sure that it doesn't, buildings and lease them to UVM. I can't be sure, but it was a clear for exit full interchange.
Michael, you're going in and out.
We don't see. Beg your pardon?
Your voice, now it sounds good, but it was going in and out.
Ah, well, I don't know why that is, but can you hear me clearly now?
I can. Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
You froze up again.
If I can adjust this.
I think you froze.
Is there another Planning Commission member here? An energy, also, let me just take a look at the list here. I know that Andrew Chalnick was here. Yeah, Andrew's here. Andrew, could you talk to us about energy committees?
Sure. I mean, the energy committee, I think, kind of felt similar to the sentiment that Michael is articulating, that kind of exit 13 now doesn't really work great, and that it, you know, if we had to choose between a new exit and kind of fixing the current exit, we thought we better to kind of fix the current exit, and kind of shared your concerns, Megan, about the quality of life around the new exit there for the residents. I will say that the overriding sentiment of the energy committee was to, if we're going to spend $10-20 million to build more pedestrian and mass transit and bike mobility rather than car mobility. But if we were kind of forced to use the money for this project, you know, we kind of unanimously thought 13 was better than 12B.
There's one other thing, anything spoken to me, it says, if you build the exit, you don't need to funnel
breaking up.
traffic into that area. Am I still breaking up?
You're back
Yes.
now. You're back now. But
Yeah.
is somebody else in your house
I'm not
using
sure
your
what the
internet
problem
at the
is.
same time?
It's
If
possible.
I could jump in here,
It's
all
possible.
I would say is I would like for me to be able to develop a resolution where we look at policy decisions through climate change lens. And I realize that you all know what that means. That means that, to my mind, 12B is very much contributing to our climate change issues. I see 13 as a solution. And I would really like, that's my request, that we hold off until next meeting, and I'll prepare a resolution and we look at this through a climate change lens.
Well, there's a motion on the table and it's been seconded, so we should have a vote.
We can table that motion, Matt, if people agree.
Well, I don't agree.
Okay.
What I'd
Is
say,
it-
I don't see 12B as the calamity for climate change for the region, because I see it as smart growth with the environmental benefits of regional density to get more concentrated housing in that area away from the corners, the far corners, and further out into the hinterlands. I also see the public transportation amenity-oriented park and ride is really needed for the whole region. We need more Richmond park and rides. I also see this as reducing commute time. So I don't see this as a bad thing for climate change. Even electric vehicles are going to need shorter time. So to your point, Councilor Emery, I don't see 12B as anti-climate or not addressing the climate change concern.
Well, let's have that discussion. Right now, it has the lowest environmental stewardship. It has the lowest livable, sustainable, and healthy communities. I think that these lowest system preservation has a lot of things that I think we need to talk about. And if you're willing to have that debate, I would ask that you table this so we could have that debate.
I think those debates are going to happen as this moves forward, because of all of the different requirements that the federal government, Act 250 and everything else requires. So all of those things will be considered.
Yeah, but
That's
April 29th, they have a public meeting. So if we meet at our first meeting in May and carry on, I don't think we're slowing them down. Is that correct, Charlie?
To be honest with you, I was hoping to come out of this meeting with a decision that we could communicate it at the public meeting, and kind of start to turn the page into what the packages of that are more like what Andrew described, you know, all the climate change efforts and investments that we would make before we would do an interstate. But Councilor Emery, we'll remain flexible. You know, the best laid plans. So we'll follow your lead, whichever direction you go in.
I see
Well, I
that
think-
John Burton wants to speak. Michael,
Okay.
you're still breaking up. Maybe you could leave, Michael, and come back.
Yeah, I wanted to, I'm involved with the Economic Development Committee, and important to realize that we landed on 12B as providing the most economic benefit to the town because of high-paying jobs and improvement to the business parks. Access would accelerate more businesses settling in our business parks. So we see it as actually a win-win that with the increased tax base that will come from all of that, and taking large trucks off of the secondary roads, I think this is a win for the environment. And I think with the additional proceeds that could come from the taxes that would result from further development in the existing business parks that are already prepared for this, that money could be put to other great things like bike paths and PEDs and all the rest of it. So I see that the area has been already prepared for this. Most towns of size have a business park district, and generally it's built right off of an interstate exchange. And in fact, national companies coming into the area will expect that. So the absence of 12B has actually slowed, people choosing to settle at the business parks that we have. So that was the consensus at the Economic Development Committee. We said if you don't do 12B, then yeah, 13 has some economic benefit, but not as much as 12B will.
Do you see residential in those business parks that you have seen?
No, they're business parks, and there's a place for business parks. And in fact, South Burlington has the most business parks of any city in Vermont. So it is the economic engine of the state in that regard. I think it's important to the state's economy and to the county economy. If the role we play, the benefit is we get to tax that activity as well and use that for other public good.
So the answer is no. Is that correct? You don't see residential?
We don't think it's a residential issue. We've already got residential zoning. We also don't believe that by default, properties around that exit have to dramatically change. That's up to planning, zoning, and regulation. It's not a given. Certainly, it will provide better access and get some traffic off of our secondary roads, particularly the heavy traffic that is going into the business park.
Excellent. Thank you, John.
No residential. So not excellent.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
We have a motion. I think, as Charlie has said, this is not a fait accompli. I think we can come back to this if need be, just as a community. Oh, Michael Mittag, yes. Let's see if we can hear you now.
See if you can hear me now. How's that sound?
Yes, that sounds fine until it doesn't.
Still no good?
It sounds fine now.
Okay, so I just have a question in closing before you vote on this motion about the weight that will be the weighting given to the opinion of the council or some members of the council and the opinions of the various committees of the city that worked on this a few weeks ago. Which committees and represented a large part of the community. Many people participated. So it's a question of balancing the needs of residents for whom the quality of life is more important possibly than the development of easy access to the business parks, technology park or meadows. And also the use, I said earlier that 12B will use up a lot of land. If you look at it the way it's laid out, the hill farm, it'll use up a chunk of that. The contribution to the negative contribution to climate change just from building it will be significant. We all preferred exit 13 for the reasons we've given in our written comments to Charlie. There's a question of balance here. What's more important? We don't see that it's needed because exit 13 access to Route 116, which gives you access to the Tilly Drive area and Kennedy Drive gives you access to Meadowlands as well. So we just don't see that it's necessary. The other thing is that 13, full interchange of 13 had the lowest cost and the highest scores in many categories. So it didn't seem like a no-brainer to us.
Thank you. I agree with you. It had the much higher core ranking, and I think we had a number of committees that weighed in. and I appreciate that work. But apparently the council majority of the council have other ideas. So we have a motion on the table. Are you ready for that vote?
Just one more item, Helen, is that, and as Charlie's pointed out before, don't forget that all of these bridges all have to be replaced anyway, right? So there's going to be a ton of energy spent in tearing things down and building things back up and fashioning the steel and bringing it in and trucking it and then putting it in place. So we're not going to get away from having to spend energy to replace even aging infrastructure. It has to be done anyway. The question is, exit 12B versus exit 13. You have something at 13 now. It does something. It's been serving a function for many years. There is no connection at exit 12, and there is demand for intersection to be able to conduct traffic on and off the interstate that hasn't existed before. There is demand for that. You have the opportunity to make a decision to pursue that in the future where it doesn't exist today. And that will have benefits for commute times and also reducing travel times for people that have to go out of their way into the city to get back on an interstate to go somewhere. And also for all the people who have destinations for the UVM health services that are going to be right off that exit. So I just want to point that out, that it's an opportunity to provide connection where it doesn't exist today. And you have to rebuild it anyway. So you might as well spend the extra money and put something in that gives you an advantage.
Absolutely.
Two people wish to speak, Helen. I'm reading in the chat. Chris Trombley and Ariel, and I'm sorry.
Okay. Why don't we hear from those and then complete this? So Chris, why don't you start?
Yeah, thanks, Ellen. I'll be brief. I just want to weigh in. The Affordable Housing Committee did take a look at this. We weighed in that, we encourage attributing a greater weight to the likely economic development benefits of the exit alternatives. We didn't weigh in on 12B or 13, but we understand that, housing affordability is the ratio of resident income to housing expenses, and the opportunity to bring in jobs to the region does have a positive impact on housing affordability. So we didn't pick one, but we do ask that the economic development is weighted higher than it currently is, so that a team can evaluate the benefit of which exit would be better. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Okay, thank you. Ariel? Whoa. No, you sound like one of the chipmunks. No. No, you still sound like the little chipmunk.
Maybe type it in the chat box and Helen can read it. Oh,
How about now?
Oh, no, there your voice is okay. I don't know what you did, but
Yeah,
you now
sometimes you just
sound
have
like
to reset.
a human being. Welcome.
Thank you. No, the only thing is, I think what's missing from this discussion is the grant that's already in place to basically revamp that hill on Spear Street that goes from the intersection of Swift and Spear to UVM. And that actually is going to need those two ramps on Kennedy Drive to be redone, in my opinion. It's also going to include a pedestrian byway. Now, once that's done, it's my belief that that's actually going to liberate a lot of traffic that's currently on Shelburne Road and going to make it much easier to access between South Burlington and UVM. So that I just wanted to bring that piece in, because when I was sitting in on the Affordable Housing Committee, we really didn't include that in our discussion. We were really talking about the exits, but we weren't talking about the other pieces that were coming in as far as that grant. And that's already been approved. That work is definitely going forward. So just wanted to add that piece in.
Okay, thank you. Michael. I don't know if we're going to be able to hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Well, that's how you start out, and then we can't. But I mean, can you make it real brief, because it's getting late? We have a motion on the
Yes.
table.
I'll make it brief and comment that exit 13 actually does not work, as Tim Barrett said, it doesn't work at all. You can't get onto 89. from
Michael, I
Dorset
know that.
Street.
I didn't say it
Kennedy.
worked completely. I said it partially worked, but there's something there.
Let me finish. I didn't interrupt you.
Okay, make
For
it
me
quick,
to get
please.
out to the highway, anybody who lives around here has to go down to Shelburne Road and back up. And that's 4 miles additional travel just to go 500 meters. So it doesn't work at all. And it would work very well if it was a full interchange. In addition, we'd recover some land on the north or southbound lane of I-189, which would not be required to be a full highway. It would become a boulevard, I believe. Apart from all the other things you said, lower cost, it'll take some load off exit 14, and Kennedy Drive is underutilized, and we spent a ton of money on building it, so let's utilize it.
Okay, thank you. So are you ready for the vote?
Yes.
Let's make it roll call. So this is to support 12B.
Oh,
over-
Ray Gonda also said the Natural Resources Committee favors the diamond upgrade to exit 13 and does not favor 12B.
I know, as I said earlier, I think we have many committees who are not supportive of this, but we're not listening to them today. So the motion on the table is to support 12B. So Matt,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Megan,
No, you can go through St. George to exit 13. It's really easy, Tim.
Tim,
Aye.
and the chair votes no, so the vote is 3-2. So that's,
Charlie.
thank you, Charlie.
Well, can I make one comment?
You certainly may.
Because I'm hearing, certainly the split in city council and certainly the split amongst your committees. And I just want to, in fairness to you and the conversation, this is a recommendation going to this to the study advisory committee. I think one of my takeaways from this conversation is you're going to make us think long and hard about whether we can look at both of them in the next iteration. So we will take a hard look at that. And I just wanted to make that comment before we left the conversation. So thank you very much. I really appreciate all your attention on this in the last couple months. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good night.
Good night.
Okay, item 11, this is the consideration and possible approval of a resolution requiring that a third-party conservation easement from the so-called Wheeler property be conveyed and completed within 5 months of enactment.
Move
I
to
don't know.
approve, presented.
Okay, we have a motion to approve as presented. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion?
Just one question for Kevin.
Yep.
So did Andrew have any feedback about the difficulty of applying the conservation easement in conjunction with the pre-existing Act 250 easements?
He didn't, but he is looking into that, Tim. It was an interesting question, but he didn't have an opinion on that yet. He has been in touch with the land trust. They may have some advice on that as well. So the process is moving forward, but he does not have an answer to that question.
Okay, so I just want to warn everybody that I'll vote for this resolution. That's no problem, but I'm just worried about legal technicalities that could slow the process down. That's all.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay, well, we've had other legal technicalities that slowed us down in the beginning, so it's been a real slow process. All right, are we ready
Take
for the vote?
10 years, another year.
Are we ready for the vote? Okay.
Yes.
All in favors, thumbs up, signify by
Aye.
saying aye.
Aye.
And who aren't we seeing? Where is Tom? Are you a yes?
Aye.
Aye. My
Okay.
camera's going in and out for some reason. I think I need to
Okay, I'm sorry. I usually do things. Okay. So we passed that. Now we have February and March financials. Tom Hubbard.
Yes, thanks, Helen. So here we are, 3/4 of the way through the fiscal year. We're now in the last quarter and kind of prepared at this point to share some forecasting with you as we look through our revenues and expenditures to date, as well as some projections for the end of the fiscal year. So currently, as you've seen from the general fund revenues, we're sitting at about 86% on revenues and 66% in our expenditures. So first, let's take a look at the revenues, because this is where some of the expected shortfalls are anticipated. There's a number of key revenue items that we're tracking, and the major ones include the property tax, the local options tax, interest on our accounts, planning and zoning revenue, fire inspection revenue, ambulance revenue, and rec and park activities and events. These are some of the major revenue sources that we expect to have some shortfalls in. Now, while these items that I'm sharing with you have kind of negative numbers associated with them, I want to come back after identifying the potential downfalls with ways that I expect that we'll be able to balance these out at the end of this fiscal year. So let's take a look at the local options tax. We should be about 63% received to date, both with our sales and our rooms and meals. The sales tax revenue is right there. However, the rooms and meals continues to lag behind. We're currently at 38% of revenues received in the rooms and meals. We're projecting about a $400,000 shortfall at the end of the fiscal year in the local options tax because of that. Interest on our accounts, when the budget was built, seems like ages ago at this point for FY21, but we had figured in a 2% return on the investment. And as I've shared with you over the past couple of reports, we're getting at about a 0.25. This is going to be a shortfall of about $175,000 for us. Planning and zoning revenues, while we're catching up currently, we're around 64%, so not at the 75% mark. We still project a shortfall of about $90,000 there. Fire inspection revenue, much of this, as with planning and zoning, revenue is based on the timing of development and review, and we're currently at 57% of fire inspection revenue collected, anticipating about $100,000 shortfall there. Ambulance billing revenue currently at 56%, not near the 75% that we should be at, about $150,000 shortfall. And lastly, as you know, rec and park activities and events have been canceled. Many haven't been able to be held. We're projecting about $140,000 revenue loss from recreation parks programs. Now, some of that will be offset and that we don't have to expend some of the money to make those programs happen. But all told, just those items alone, $1,055,000 in shortfall. So let's look at some of the positive factors that we can talk about. Property taxes after the third installment, we're doing very well. 99% plus received to date. Reimbursement to the Coronavirus Relief Fund, FEMA, money that we've received to date, $169,000. City clerk recording fees, vital records already collected were $55,000 over anticipated revenue in city clerk. We have reduced expenditures in recreation park activity and events of $95,000. We have the refunding of the pension loan this year, not having to make The principal and interest payments, $668,000. We anticipate a health insurance savings of somewhere over $100,000, doing really well to date. This totals $1,087,000, $32,000 to the good. I'm feeling pretty good about that, and I just wanted to share that with you. And the reason I'm feeling good about it is additionally, this does not take into consideration any additional money from the Corona Relief Fund, from any additional money from FEMA that we do expect to be receiving, or any of the money from the American Rescue Plan that we'll be receiving, which is substantial, as Kevin alluded to earlier, over $5 million. We expect that the rescue plan money to be received sometime in the early part of June, and really anxious to see some clearer definition about what these funds can be used for. It's significant money. We're hopeful that it can backfill lost revenue, assist with public safety costs, hopefully to even include regional dispatch and other initiatives, be utilized for projects and purchases in the CIP that were put on hold, that were reduced, or were eliminated due to a lack of funding, and provide some funding for staff positions that have been put on hold, as well as enable some of the enterprise utility projects for water, stormwater, and sewer to be funded. So we'll definitely be coming back to council for further discussion and meetings on this related to projects and funding once we have better information. And we'll be working with Charlie at CCRPC and with the Vermont League of Cities and Towns, who have both received consulting money to assist communities in this effort. So anyway, that's just kind of a snapshot of where we're at, and you know, still feeling pretty good about bringing the budget online for the end of this fiscal year, and being very hopeful about some possibilities for use of the American Rescue Plan. So happy to respond to any questions or comments.
Megan and then Matt.
All of the budget shortfalls that you are talking about, they are taking our budget forecast lower and we're having to make up for it? Or are you saying that these were foreseen shortfalls?
No, that's kind of a status of where we are right now, Megan, and where we expect to be by the end of June with those numbers based on the percentages that we have today.
So we're falling short of our budgeted
Correct.
revenues.
Yeah, the expenses we can control. You know, like I've said before, those are things where we've had the budget freeze in effect, and that's worked because it's certainly balancing out that shortfall in revenues. Where I think we are right now is at a point that, given the fact that I think we've put measures into place that we're still going to leave ourselves in the black for this year, that I'd like to see us start freeing up some of the money in our capital expenditures to start purchasing some of the fleet, to start doing some of the projects that we had anticipated doing in this fiscal year, because I think those projects and purchases can still happen and leave us balanced. We still have over $340,000 in paving that I think if we held that back as an insurance on any other shortfall that we might have, that come July 1st, we can always accrue those monies, which I think we will be able to, into the next fiscal year, so that Justin can just add that 340 to all the other projects that he's bidding out for FY22, and we can be able to accomplish those in the same construction season.
Can you explain to me how we're going to do that with budget shortfalls?
So the shortfalls that I identified were all offset with the additional revenue that I identified. So that leaves us with anticipating that the rest of the budget would get spent as is. We've already got 99% plus of our property tax collected. So at this point, as I shared with Kevin and I'm sharing with you, I feel comfortable and confident that we can begin releasing some of the money for the CIP expenditures that we had planned in this year, with the exception of the paving money, which I think we should hold just as insurance in case additional funds are needed. But I don't think they will be, with the fact that I'm confident we're going to have the money from the federal government that's going to be able to help us backfill some of our loss in revenue.
That's where it's coming from, because $400,000 in rooms and meals, that's a big chunk of change.
Yeah, so right now, the $668,000 that we're saving in the refunding of the pension loan, Megan, is going to offset that. But when we are able to backfill that $668,000 with money from the American Rescue Plan, that allows other opportunities for us to do some things in the city. So that's where my level of confidence is coming from at this point.
And Matt?
So just to clarify, Tom, so but for the American Rescue Plan, a lot of the CIP projects you would be putting on hold. You wouldn't be investing in capital infrastructure. Is that correct?
Thanks for asking that, Matt. I think we're still okay to move forward. We're anticipating that those expenditures would be made, and we'd still come out with a budget in the black.
So then how do you plan?
American Rescue Plan.
So when we're still understanding what the rules are and what we can spend it on, but you would be booking that revenue in FY 2022 and the expenses as well, I assume, right? Even
Correct.
though money might flow in June. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, I think we'll probably get half the money in early June, which is probably $2.5 million plus sometime in June.
That's great. Thank you.
Other questions? Tim?
Tom, what about the rooms and meals tax and its projections for over the summer into the fall, especially next fall?
Yeah, I'm hopeful that things are going to get better, Tim. I don't expect that there's going to be much of a change till the end of June, which is why we're projecting the shortfall. Fortunately, in terms of our local options tax, the rooms and meals is only 25%. The sales is 75% of what we collect. So I'm hopeful that that's going to get better, but I'm also confident that one of the things that I have understood from the American Rescue Plan is that would be an eligible backfilled revenue loss that we could cover with the federal funds. In the meantime, we're covering it in our own way within fiscal year 21 to come out in the black.
Okay. Well, everyone keep their fingers crossed.
Get your vaccination.
Get your vaccination.
We've all had one, right?
Tomorrow.
I've had two. I'm all set. That's why I went out west.
Right.
I'm good. I'm good to go. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
13, we need to convene as the Liquor Control Commission to consider Chipotle, well, who else? Dave's Cosmic Subs, Duke's Public House.
I move to convene the Burlington Liquor Control Board.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we've got 4, I think it is. 1, 2.
Scrutinize them, but I'm going to move to approve
Just
all of the presented liquor control applications.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Moving on to item 4. I'm sorry, what? Oh, excuse me, let's move out.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Other business, I remembered what I wanted to bring up, and I would like us to think about, and maybe it's an item you could just send me. Tom already identified a vacation conflict for this summer. So if you'll think ahead of if you're going to be away and it's impossible to join either, on, go to meeting or call in or something, please let me know and we can try to schedule around that, or at least not have anything controversial or real important for those meetings. Okay, so as soon as you know, let me know, or Kevin or somebody, so we can organize that. Tom?
Yeah, June 21st, I'm going to be vacationing, so I could join, but it'd make my wife really frustrated. So if you need me, I can, but I have that other business item about the ferry. Is now a good time, Chair?
Oh, that's right. Yes, you may.
All right, so in one of my other roles, a senator I greatly respect, Senator Ginny Lyons, is very concerned about the sinking of the ferry in the lake. And they are taking testimony, and they are looking, it just came up in conversation. I remember Councilor Barrett, I want to say 3 or 4 months ago, asking this council and other business what our thoughts would be about, rather than dropping it to the bottom of the ocean, imagine if we shipwrecked it or sank it on Red Rocks Beach, or pick another place. And so I'm not going to push that notion, but I want to say that if there's interest of this council, I am open to it. I am not saying I definitely want the ferry to be dry docked on Red Rocks, but if this council would rather have that ferry on the land rather than down at the bottom of the lake, now is the time to speak up. Not that we have the money to pay for it. I'd want the state to pay for it all. And again, this isn't a warned item. If anything, I just want to put it out there that there's interest in the Senate, in which I'm serving now, to not drop that thing to the bottom of the lake. And if a municipality with access to the lake expressed interest in such a device, I think it'd be a conversation worth having. That's all I want to say.
What would we do with it, Tom? We just let them use our land to get it out, or what would we do?
Councilor Barrett talked about a plane, and that I don't know if you want to refresh our memory.
When I was a kid at Wheaton Regional Park in Maryland, they had brought like an Fu-47 jet fighter and pulled the engines out and stuck it in the park and put steps up to the cockpit and then a slide down the other side. I actually dug up a picture and sent it to Tom earlier today. I was amazed I could find the picture on the internet, but you can find anything on the internet. So the point was that they repurposed this military aircraft on a playground. The kids could crawl through the engines. They could sit in the cockpit before somebody yelled at them, and they could slide down the other side. I mean, if they dragged the Ticonderoga all the way across the land and made it a museum piece, this ferry is pretty special, I think, just aesthetically. I just don't know how technically feasible it is to situate it, adjacent to the shoreline and then prevent it from sinking by, somehow dry docking it, like the boathouse sort of whatever. And then making it an extension of a park, either through just activities. I mean, it's a shelter. You could have, parties underneath it. Kids could play on it. It's just, ideas. That's all.
Yeah.
Brainstorming.
Okay.
That's all.
Why would they sink
Tom,
it?
why don't you get some more information about the size? I mean, I'm thinking Red Rocks is a relatively small park and they don't have a huge beach. I'm not sure all the residents want a ferry pulled up on the beach as a.
Burlington has more room for something like that.
They have a lot of land though.
Yeah.
A lot of beach.
They could drag it up underneath the Moran plant, and then they could have 2 metal structures that are,
But I'm going to take from this conversation and relate to my good friend Ginny Lyons, if I can say that no councilor balked or said, no, it's a crazy idea. We don't want to hear anything more about it. So that's the only thing I'm going to convey. And then I'll talk to Kevin if there's any reason to put this on a future agenda, Kevin and Helen, about actually considering any possibility of South Burlington considering this Adirondack.
I don't want it at Red Rocks. I'll say that. I don't want it at Red Rocks. We weren't supposed to decide today. I thought this is just
right.
other business.
That's what I said. Get some more information. I mean, I don't know how big it is.
This would commit to nothing. So I met Councilor Emery. I will definitely convey there's concerns about Red Rocks, but
okay.
That's all I'm going to say. I'll send emails about this after.
Any other business to come before us?
You had something about a conversation, Helen.
Pardon me?
You had something. You had a conversation about something.
Yeah, and I can't remember. It was the vacation conflicts was one thing, but I can't remember the other thing.
All right.
It'll come to me tonight.
Good.
After
All
we
right,
adjourn.
so are we ready to adjourn? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry, the meeting was so long, I should know, well, I didn't organize.
We
12
haven't had a
people
long one in a
interview
while, so it
tonight.
was good.
Holy moly. Yeah.
No worries.
Helen, when
Okay.
I was the first year on council, I remember sticking around till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. 10:56, this is good. We're good. Good job. See ya.
Glad you think that. All right, bye-bye.